Chapter 2615 Great Elder Zhou. When Yin Lesheng provoked such a powerful enemy, he died as soon as he died. Although it was heartbreaking, Hu told him not to keep his eyes open and take a closer look, and even caused the Netherworld sect to lose 2 emperor status elders. A deputy suzerain. This time, Huang Quanzong's loss will be great. Fu Bo believed that Luan Feng was the one who killed those people, and he didn't dare to think of revenge, so his attitude softened. What he is most worried about now is whether people will let it go. If he doesn't want to make big things into small things, it will undoubtedly be another catastrophe for Huang Quanzong. The Emperor's visit in person is no joke. If one is not careful, the Netherworld sect may be expelled from the Star Realm from now on. Yang Kai snorted softly and said, Yin Lesheng provoked me again and again. I have a kind heart, and I have already shown mercy to let him go in the Sea of Broken Stars, but I don't want him to want to make trouble for me, and give me a lot of money. It will not cause much trouble. Everyone was killed by you, you have a far trouble. It's me who is really troubled, you bastard. Fu Bo was secretly angry, but he didn't dare to refute. As the saying goes, a son does not teach his father. He is a teacher for a day and a father for the rest of his life. Although Yin Lesheng is dead, the responsibility of you as a teacher is not small. If you can teach him well, he will not be like this. Stubborn, narrow-minded. It's coming, it's really implicating Huang Quanzong, and it's implicating himself. Although he had expected it, but after hearing Yang Kai's words, Fu Bo still had a lot of resentment, wishing that he had never accepted Yin Lesheng as an apprentice, but the matter has come to this point, it is impossible for him to escape. What do you want, Your Excellency? Fu Bo sighed. Luanfeng stood behind Yang Kai and stared at him with phoenix eyes, making his heart shudder, lest he would offend the other party if he said something wrong, and took the opportunity to make trouble. Yang Kai snorted and said, the mental trauma and physical and mental torture brought by the apprentice to this young master are indelible, and this young master still has palpitations when he thinks about it, and it is difficult to sleep or eat. That memory is like a ghost haunting him, and he can't get rid of it. Fu Bo raised his hand to interrupt him, and said dejectedly, Your Excellency, please make an offer. He figured it out. Yang Kai didn't come here this time to really do something to the Netherworld sect and his suzerain, but to blackmail him. While feeling pain, he was relieved at the same time. If he could pay some price to make the other party give up, that would be acceptable. It's just that the price. I'm afraid it won't be too small. Yang Kai squinted and said angrily, Sect Master Fu is too small to look down on people, right? Do you think this young master can be bought casually? Fu Bo was taken aback, thinking that he might have made a mistake. Can't help panicking. I don't know what Yang Kai wants to do when he comes to Huang Quanzong this time. On the other side, Yang Kai changed the subject, touched his chin and said, however, if Sect Master Fu is really sincere, this young master may not be willing to calm down. When Fu Bo heard this, he almost spit out a mouthful of old blood in anger. Seeing Yang Kai's righteous speech just now, I thought he was a principled person, but in a blink of an eye, the fox's tail was exposed. After all, it's still for blackmail. Fu Bo said with an ugly face. I don't know how sincere Your Excellency said, how big is it? Yang Kai said lightly, if I can have tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of source crystals, this young master may forget about the troubles that people from the noble sect made me, and I can sleep peacefully in the future. Tens of millions, hundreds of millions. Fu Bo was startled, wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, and asked, a middle-grade source crystal. Joke. Yang Kai looked angry, staring at Fu Bo and said, it seems that Fu Sect Master's sincerity is not enough to extinguish this young master's anger. Madam Feng. He shouted angrily. Luanfeng immediately took a step forward and said, what orders does Mr. Yang have? Wait. When Fu Bo saw Luanfeng standing up, he was startled, and he raised his hand to stop him, sweating like a waterfall, and his body became shorter. He asked weakly, is Your Excellency refers to high-grade source crystal? Yang Kai sneered. Why does Sect Master Fu pretend to be confused? Fu Bo couldn't help swallowing his saliva, only then did he realize how big Yang Kai's appetite was. It's not that the Netherworld sect can't take out tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of high-grade source crystals, but taking them out will definitely hurt the muscles and bones. Although the Netherworld sect is the top sect in the eastern region, and its subordinates are also in charge of many source crystal veins, which produce a large number of mines every year, but with so many disciples in the entire sect, the family has a great business and consumes a lot. If it really meets Yongkai's needs, in the next few years, the cultivation resources of the disciples will be greatly reduced. Fu Bo was so angry that the deputy suzerain of his sect, the two elders and even his own disciples were all killed, but the enemy ran to him to blackmail him, and the lion opened his mouth when he came. Everyone has to respond to each other, but the fist is not as big as others, it is really aggrieved. Just when Fu Bo was hesitating, a voice suddenly came from outside the hall. Sect Master, Zhou Yong is begging to see you. The Great Elder. Fu Bo frowned, not knowing what his own Great Elder was doing here at this time. He was swimming in the shallow water at the moment, so he naturally didn't want others to see his embarrassment, but after thinking about it, how much individuals can also come up with more ideas. If the Great Elder is there, it may be possible to recover a little loss. After all, the Great Elder is not an outsider. With this in mind, Fu Bo said, "Come in." On the side, Yang Kai glanced at Luanfeng with a smile on his lips. Luanfeng snorted softly with a cold look. When she first joined the Netherworld sect before, Luanfeng shot and killed a man who was obsessed with female lust and wanted to take her captive. The man also reported himself as the grandson of the Great Elder. Now that the Great Elder of the Netherworld sect suddenly came over in person, why doesn't she know what the other party is doing? This is clearly for revenge. The fact is indeed the case. After the charming woman who followed the killed man pointed out the direction to Yang Kai and others, she immediately went to see the Great Elder and fully reported what happened before. The Great Elder was furious, knowing that Yang Kai and the others were looking for Fu Bo, he naturally hurried here. His grandson was killed in the sect, is that okay? Not to mention that he was his only grandson, and killing his grandson was a mortal feud, but the other party's arrogance alone was slapping his old face. Outside the palace gate, Zhou Yong walked in with a cold face, the murderous intent in his eyes almost solidified, and after a salute with Fu Bo, he immediately looked at the two women standing behind Yang Kai. He heard from the disciple at the third level of Daoyuan that the person who killed his grandson was a dignified and graceful woman. The temperament of Luanfeng and Ji Yao is very different, so Zhou Yong quickly identified who was the murderer. At this moment, Fu Bo frowned, thinking how to explain the situation to his elder, so that he could help him to come up with an idea, and he didn't notice Zhou Yong's anger and murderous intent at all. Before he came back to his senses, Zhou Yong suddenly shouted, "You maidservant, are you the one who killed my grandson?" Huh! Fu Bo woke up startled, looked up at Zhou Yong, and said in horror, Elder, what are you talking about?" Did he hear correctly? The Great Elder actually called him a lowly maidservant as soon as he arrived. Zhou Yong stretched out his hand, pointed at Luanfeng standing behind Yang Kai, and said angrily, "Sovereign, this bitch, who killed Zhou Ji in the sect before, is the only grandson of this elder." Zhou Ji. Fu Bo frowned, that ignorant guy. He obviously knew about Zhou Ji. After all, he was the grandson of the Great Elder. If he were an ordinary disciple, he would not be able to remember it. Territory. But Zhou Ji is different, that is the grandson of the Great Elder. Fu Bo has also heard about this person for a long time, and knows that this guy is ignorant, relying on the support of the elders, he often acts recklessly. But that kid didn't damage the foundation of the sect, let alone the female disciples with outstanding qualifications, so seeing the face of the Great Elder, Fu Bo didn't bother to take care of it. Never thought that that dandy was actually killed, and he was killed in the sect. The person who killed him was still the strong man who made him fearful. Zhou Yong grieved, and said, although Jir is a little ignorant, she is still young. With the old man's own teaching, she can become a great talent in the future, but today he died. He was killed by this bitch, my Zhou family, will never be seen again. Fu Bo's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot, and while secretly looking at Luanfeng's reaction, he shouted, "Shut up, elder. This is an existence at the level of a great emperor. How could Zhou Yong be so blind?" He insulted her again and again, and the slut yelled in a smooth manner, so what good could happen if he pissed off the other party? For a while, Fu Bo's intestines were full of regrets. If he knew this, how could he let Zhou Yong in? This time it didn't help, but added chaos. Zhou Yong said angrily, "Sovereign, even if they are your guests, the old man must take revenge for killing my grandson." He thought that Yang Kai and others could stand here because of Fu Bo's guests. But even if he was Fu Bo's guest, he wasn't afraid. As a powerhouse at the third level of Emperor Zun, and even the Great Elder of the Netherworld sect, his status was very important. Zhou Yong believed that the suzerain would stand by his side. Unexpectedly, things were completely different from what he thought. Fu Bo actually had a gloomy face and shouted angrily, Grand Elder, please put the overall situation first. The big picture. Zhou Yang sneered, this old man is dead, so what is the big picture? Today's suzerain will complete the old man, if not, the old man will leave the Netherworld sect and kill these people. Fu Bo was shaken all over, realized that this was troublesome, and said with an ugly face, what nonsense are you talking about? The deputy suzerain is dead, and the 2 elders are also dead. If the first elder leaves the sect again, the strength of the Netherworld sect is bound to plummet. Also alone. I hope the suzerain will make it happen. Zhou Yang clasped his fists and shouted, with a firm attitude. What he said just now was only advancing by retreating, not really wanting to leave the Netherworld sect. After all, he had devoted his whole life to the Netherworld sect, and it was so easy to break away from the sect. To be continued. This text is provided by the Dawn Update Group at Biaomingdong Yu Shui Shui. Chapter 2616. What do you think? Zhou Yang believes that as long as he shows a little determination, the suzerain will definitely fulfill him. After all, he has fought for the sect for so many years, and he has worked hard without credit. Is Zhou Dacheng old? At this moment, Yang Kai suddenly smiled, looked at him playfully, and said, why don't you tell Sect Master Fu, why did your grandson die? Quote. Fu Bo was startled, thinking right. As soon as Zhou Yang came in, he accused the great emperor of killing his grandson, but how could such a great emperor attack a warrior at the first level of Daoyuan for no reason? Normally, I'm afraid I wouldn't even take a look at it, let alone start it. Zhou Yang snorted coldly. No matter what Jair did wrong, you can't kill him. Yang Kai was stunned, but he was speechless, and after a long time he gave a thumbs up and praised, the great elder is really domineering. Zhou Yang said angrily, Jair is the grandson of my seat, it's justifiable to make some small mistakes, but you are the killer. Today, when the old man comes here, I must take your life and avenge my Jair. Small mistake. Yang Kai couldn't help laughing, looking at Fu Bo and said, Sect Master Fu, that Zhou Ji was so excited that he wanted to kidnap this Mrs. Feng who was next to me, and went back to serve her bed without asking any questions. Sovereign, what do you think? Abduction. Sleeper. Fu Bo was taken aback, his forehead was dripping with cold sweat, his eyes were spinning, and he felt that there would never be light in the world again. In front of this Mrs. Feng, even I have to be honest and dare not make any rash moves. How dare Zhou Ji take her into captivity? Do you want her to go to bed? This is courting death. Until now, he finally understood why a great emperor would attack a martial artist at the first level of Daoyuan. And based on his understanding of Zhou Ji, it is really possible for that dude to do such a thing. Yang Kai looked at Zhou Yang with a smile, and said, I have seen the prestige of the great elder today. He is worthy of being a member of the great sect. His tone of voice is different. It is really eye-opening. As you said, if your grandson is still alive, if you teach him personally, in the future, he will become a great talent. After all, what kind of grandpa there is what kind of grandson. It's useless to say these things now. Zhou Yang looked at Yang Kai coldly, with murderous intent, you have to die to calm the anger in my heart. Turning his head, he looked at Fu Bo, and said in a deep voice again, please fulfill the suzerain. Fu Bo's face sank like water, and he secretly scolded the great elder for being so blind today, and when he was about to secretly transmit a voice transmission to explain to him how powerful Luanfeng is, Yang Kai suddenly said, Sect Master Fu, since this great elder would rather leave the noble Zong is also going to kill me, why don't you just focus on the beauty of being a man? If you continue to obstruct me like this, I'm afraid no one will be happy. Hearing this, Fu Bo didn't know what Yang Kai meant. He sighed heavily, closed his eyes, and looked like he was staying out of the matter. Thank you, Sect Master. Zhou Yang was overjoyed, and when he turned around, the Emperor Yuan in his body urged fiercely, and slapped Yang Kai and the others fiercely. That posture seems to want to slap Yang Kai and others to death. The light of rice grains dares to compete for glory. Luanfeng snorted coldly, but she didn't see any movement. Her body suddenly appeared in front of Yang Kai, and as soon as she raised her hand, a jet-black flame greeted Zhou Yang. As soon as the pitch-black flame appeared, it gave people an aura of burning everything. The power of Zhou Yang's palm suddenly collapsed, and his whole body was shaken, full of flaws. What? Zhou Yang's face changed drastically, his eyes were filled with horror for an instant, and the breath of death rushed towards him, and he exclaimed, Sect Master, save me. At this moment, he finally knew that he had hit the iron plate. This dignified and beautiful woman was far superior to him in strength, and he was simply not something he could compete with. Fu Bo's closed eyes suddenly opened, and before he could say anything, Yang Kai said coldly, "Sect Master Fu, it's best not to get angry." Fu Bo's heart skipped a beat, and he swallowed back the words that came to his lips. Ah! There was a scream, but it was the ray of world-destroying black flame that turned into a ball of flames to wrap Zhou Yong and directly set him on fire. Just like before Wu Yuanzhang's death, the more Zhou Yong desperately urged Di Yuan, the more fierce the flames on his body burned, as if the Di Yuan had become fuel. Sect Master. Zhou Yong was still screaming, his voice was unbelievable, and he still wanted to ask for help. Although Fu Bo couldn't bear it in his heart, he didn't dare to intervene in the slightest. He could only watch helplessly with a sad expression. After a full 10 breaths of effort, Zhou Yongkai turned into a pool of flying ash, and the wisp of world-destroying black flame was easily moved by Luanfeng and flew back again. The contemporary Great Elder of the Netherworld sect died just like that. After Luanfeng vented, it seemed that the remaining anger was still there, and she glared at Yongkai and said, "Mr. Yang is really sorry, I have forgotten his space ring again." How could this be forgotten? It was clearly intentional, because she knew that even if Zhou Yang was killed, the space ring would not fall into her hands, so in the end she could only cheapen Yongkai and simply melt it clean. Yongkai has a great responsibility for today's matter. Luanfeng was obviously still annoyed before Yongkai stepped aside, forcing her to kill the dandy disciple. If it wasn't for Yongkai's concession, there wouldn't be so many troubles today. Yongkai wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said, "It's okay, it's okay." Seeing Yongkai like this, Luanfeng's annoyed mood could not help but calm down a lot. Speaking of which, this man is blessed by the descendant of Tianxing, so he really shouldn't give him any face, but now Yongkai is not annoyed at all, making Luanfeng feel that this man is not bad. Turning his head, Yongkai looked at Fu Bo and said, "Sect Master Fu, Mrs. Feng killed the Great Elder of Guizhong, do you have any objections?" It's not just that there are no opinions, there are really big opinions. He is the only one left in the third level of the 3 great emperors in the sect, how could he have no objection? But what if you have an opinion? Fu Bo saw Luanfeng make a move with his own eyes, recognized the origin of that ray of pitch-black flame, and heard Yongkai call her Mrs. Feng. He had already faintly guessed Luanfeng's identity in his heart. Holy Spirit Luanfeng, one of the 4 great saints in the wild and ancient land, the 8 demon kings under him, the left and right holy envoys, each of them is not weaker than him. Although he is not a great emperor, he is also comparable to a great emperor, and he cannot afford to provoke him. Enraged her, she randomly sent a few demon kings over to destroy Huang Quanzong easily. Bitter in his heart, Fu Bo forced a smile and said, "Zhou Yang has already left the sect before, so he is not considered a member of the sect, and whether he lives or dies has nothing to do with the sect." He was also full of doubts in his heart. How could the majestic Holy Spirit Luanfeng willingly follow behind a human warrior and act like he was driven at will? What kind of hidden background does this Yongkai have? Yongkai glanced at Fu Bo meaningfully, and said with a smile, "Sect Master Fu really understands. Since that's the case, let's continue talking about the previous compensation." "No need." Fu Bo smiled wryly, "Fu Mo will surely satisfy your excellency." He wanted to haggle after hearing Yongkai's lion speak loudly before, but now he just wants to send these plague gods away as soon as possible. The disciples of his sect fell in love with Luanfeng's beauty and wanted to take him into captivity, but it was a blessing in misfortune that the other party didn't get angry and wiped out his sect, so he dared to talk any longer. While speaking, Fu Bo took out a communication compass from the space ring and poured his spiritual thoughts into it, apparently communicating with someone. After putting away the compass, Fu Bo forced a smile and said, "Wait a moment, everyone." "Yeah." Yongkai nodded, and suddenly said seriously, "Sect Master Fu, this young master actually has 2 things to do when he comes to the Netherworld sect." "Just say it." Fu Bo's heart skipped a beat. He didn't know what else Yongkai was going to do. He was nervous and asked nervously, "I don't know if you have any orders." Yongkai smiled and said, "Sect Master Fu, don't be so nervous. This second matter is just a matter of effort for Sect Master Fu. In fact, I want to borrow your sect's space magic circle." "Borrow the space magic circle?" Fu Bo felt relieved. It felt like he came to heaven from hell, and he said with relief, "No problem, no problem." He was still wondering what the other party's second thing was just now, but he didn't want to just borrow the space magic circle. "Where do you want to go?" Fu Bo asked tentatively. Yongkai Dao. Northern Territory. The Northern Territory is so far away. Fu Bo frowned, and said, although the space magic circle of our sect is considered a large magic circle, it cannot be teleported to the Northern Territory. A space magic circle will do. As far as Fu Mo knows, only the Ghost Palace in the entire eastern region has a cross-domain space magic circle, and it is something that has been handed down from ancient times. Yuewen Palace has a cross-domain space magic circle. Yongkai raised his brows, looking a little surprised. Fu also heard about it, but never saw it with his own eyes. Yongkai nodded. Don't say that Fu Bo just heard about it. Even if Yuewen Palace really has a cross-domain space magic circle, it is impossible for Yongkai to borrow it. Yuewen Palace has Emperor Yuewen sitting in command, but not everyone can go wild. Moreover, Yongkai also had conflicts with Yao Lin, the daughter of the Yuewen Great Emperor, and the last time the Yuewen Great Emperor's soul descended did not embarrass him, and he did not know what the consequences would be if he really wanted to send it to his door. Since you can't cross domains, then help me teleport to the place closest to the eastern region. Yongkai said. No problem, Fu Mo will personally help you arrange it later. Fu Mo agreed. Mr. Yang is going to the eastern region. Luanfeng listened for a long while before asking. Yongkai nodded and glanced at Ji Yao. Ji Yao is currently in an unstable state, although she has always mistook herself for Senior Bingyan, and is stable and honest by her side, but who knows when her mind will be confused again. He wanted to go to the Northern Territory, and also wanted to send Ji Yao back to Bingxin Valley. With Bing Yun taking care of her personally, maybe Ji Yao can recover. This kind of matter cannot be delayed, Yongkai can only deal with it first. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update Group at Biaoming Dongkong Shui. Chapter 2617 Xuanjia City. Turning his head, Yongkai smiled and said, Madam Feng, do you want to go with me too? The Northern Territory is beautiful, with outstanding people and beautiful mountains and rivers. It's good to go and have a look. You think beautiful? Luanfeng gave him a blank look. This guy still wants to recruit himself as a free bodyguard, it's really disgusting. Originally, sending him out of the ancient land meant that he was done with it, but he had no choice but to accompany him to the Netherworld sect, but now the ghost wants to go to the Northern Territory with him. If you don't go, why lose your temper? Yongkai touched his nose. Fu Bo watched with horror, he really couldn't figure out what the origin of Yongkai was, how close he was to the Holy Spirit Luanfeng. But he knew one thing, this young man must not be provoked. After waiting for less than half an hour, a woman's voice came from outside the hall. Sovereign, please see me. Come in, Fu Bo hurriedly said. Staying here with Yongkai and Luanfeng for half an hour, Fu Bo was like a thorn in his back. At this moment it was like seeing a savior, his face was full of joy. Following the sound of footsteps, a woman in palace costume walked in from outside. This woman's appearance is also extremely good. She is dressed in a dignified and calm manner, and her cultivation is at the level of the second level of Emperor Zun. It seems that her status in the Netherworld sect is not low. After entering the hall, the woman glanced at Yongkai and the other three curiously. She didn't know who these men and women were, but they were actually staying in the suzerain's retreat place. As far as she knew, not everyone could do it here. Came in. Even these elders are usually not summoned, and they have no chance to set foot here. Where are the things? Fu Bo asked, looking at the beautiful woman. The beautiful woman quickly replied, it's ready. While speaking, he handed a space ring in his hand to Fu Bo. Fu Bo took it, and with a sweep of his divine sense, there was a faint look of pain on his face, but he quickly restrained himself, waved to the beautiful woman and said, go down. Sovereign. The beautiful woman didn't leave immediately, but looked at Fu Bo curiously and said, what are you suddenly so eager to do with these 100 million high-grade source crystals? As the general manager of the entire Netherworld sect, the beautiful woman is in charge of the sect's warehouse and all the training materials. Although she took out the 100 million top-grade source crystals from the warehouse, she had to ask about the purpose. After all, the quantity is too large. With this 100 million high-grade source crystals, the cultivation materials of all disciples will be greatly reduced in the next few years. When the time came, the disciples would complain, and it was she, the manager, who was criticized. Cultivation, Fu Bo replied lightly, without raising his eyelids. The beautiful woman was stunned for a moment, and suddenly said happily, could it be that the suzerain? Fu Bo waved his hand and said, "Don't ask so many questions." The beautiful woman hurriedly clasped her fists and said, "Yes." But there was a trace of joy that could not be concealed between the brows. She thought that the suzerain took so many source crystals because she felt that there was hope for a breakthrough. Fu Bo is already at the 3rd level of the emperor, and if he breaks through again, he will be at the level of a great emperor. If Fu Bo really becomes a great emperor, then the Netherworld sect will definitely rise. Compared with the suzerain's cultivation base, what is a mere 100 million top-grade source crystals? The beautiful woman felt relieved immediately. The subordinate will leave. The beautiful woman saluted respectfully and was about to leave. "Well, let's go prepare the space magic circle on the way, and I will send these guests away later." Fu Bo ordered again. The beautiful woman was ordered to leave happily. After the beautiful woman left, Fu Bo showed a look of embarrassment, and threw the space ring in his hand to Yang Kai. As the current suzerain of the Netherworld sect, if he lied in front of Yang Kai and others, no matter how thick-skinned he was, he would still be unable to handle it, but what could he do if he didn't lie? Could it be that he still told his subordinates that he was being blackmailed? He really didn't have the face to say that. Yang Kai took over the space ring, swept in with his spiritual mind, and put it away without counting it carefully. He believed that Fu Bo would not play tricks, and if he said 100 million high-grade source crystals, that would be 100 million high-grade source crystals. Suddenly starting another windfall, Yang Kai is in a good mood. Counting the income he got in the wild ancient land last time, the top-grade source crystals in his hands alone amounted to as much as 7 or 8 billion. This number should not be too scary. Sect Master Fu is really sincere. Yang Kai laughed loudly, and said, "Since Sect Master Fu is very sincere, then the grievances between Ben Shao and Huang Quanzong will be written off, and from now on, the well water will not violate the river water. What does Fu Zong think?" Very good, very good. How dare Fu Bo say no? Yang Kai Dao. The second thing needs to be borrowed from the noble family. You guys, please follow me. Fu Bo didn't hesitate, and hurriedly led the way. After leaving the palace, a group of 4 immediately flew in one direction. After reaching a mountain peak, Fu Bo led Yang Kai and the others down to the flat ground on the mountain top. There was a palace towering above the mountain top. Before entering it, Yang Kai felt a clear wave of spatial power coming from it. That is the activated fluctuation of the space law circle. It seemed that the beautiful woman who had left before was indeed ready. After entering the hall, immediately the disciples of the Wangquan sect who guarded the space circle saluted respectfully, and the beautiful woman who had sent the space ring earlier hurriedly greeted her, clasped her fists and said, "Sect Master, everything is ready. I don't know where the target is located." "Xuanjia City," Fu Bo said indifferently. The beautiful woman nodded, turned her head and gestured to the disciples standing beside the space magic circle, and those disciples immediately started to adjust. In a short while, the space magic circle has been adjusted. Fu Bo smiled and stretched out his hand, "Please, everyone." Yang Kai led Ji Yao forward, stood in the center of the space law circle, then looked at Luanfeng with a smile and said, "Madam Feng, do you really want to walk around with me?" Luanfeng said expressionlessly, "Mr. Yang has a good journey." Yang Kai laughed and said, "Then I would like to thank Madam Feng for escorting me all the way. If I have free time in the future, I will visit again to thank you." The corner of Luanfeng's mouth twitched, a forced smile appeared, and she didn't say anything more. At this moment, too much talk is bound to fail, silence is golden and is king. Yang Kai turned his head and said to those Huang Quanzong disciples, "Let's get started." Several disciples glanced at Fu Bo, and only after Fu Bo nodded, did he fully arouse the power of the space magic circle. A strong light flashed, and the top-grade source crystal placed on the space magic circle was instantly emptied of energy and turned into a puddle of powder. After the light disappeared, the figures of Yang Kai and Ji Yao also disappeared at the same time. "Huh," Luanfeng exhaled softly, thinking to herself that she had finally sent this little ancestor away. She was in a happy mood for a while, smiling like a flower. Turning around, without intending to say hello to Fu Bo, he left the palace directly and flew away. Fu Bo brought a group of disciples of the underworld sect to the gate of the palace, and they handed each other off. "Sovereign." The beautiful woman's expression was blank at this moment, because she found that her suzerain was extremely respectful and fearful when facing that woman. Others didn't even pay attention to him, but he ran out to see him off. Who was that woman just now? The beautiful woman couldn't help asking the question in her heart. Before Fubo had time to answer, there was a sudden cry in the distant sky, melodious and clear, resounding through the sky. Indistinctly, there was a huge monster flying among the clouds, and it disappeared soon. Sure enough, Fubo's eyes couldn't help squinting, and a feeling of fear arose leisurely. Although he had some guesses about Dianfeng's identity before, but he didn't confirm it after all. He heard the cry and saw the cloud rising in the clouds with his own eyes. He didn't know that his guess was correct. That one is really the Holy One in the wild and ancient land. Ordinary warriors don't know much about the situation in the ancient land, but at the level of Fubo, they can always learn some unknown secrets through various channels, including the wild ancient land. Divide the forces of the earth. If it weren't for the 4 great saints and the 32 demon kings sitting in the ancient land, the huge treasure of the wild ancient land would probably be divided up by the major forces in the star realm. Don't ask too much, just do your own thing. Fubo replied lightly. Yes, the beautiful woman replied respectfully, and suddenly said, by the way, suzerain, I heard from my disciples earlier that the great elder went to your side, why is there no one? The corner of Fubo's mouth twitched violently, he sighed heavily, and said, Zhou Yong is dead. What? The beautiful woman turned pale with shock, and said in amazement, the great elder is dead. Who killed him? He has offended someone he shouldn't have offended. Fubo explained briefly, then looked at the beautiful woman and said, Elder Zhou, your curiosity is too strong. After finishing speaking, his figure flashed and turned into a ray of light, walking towards the place where he retreated. The beautiful woman surnamed Zhou still stood there in a daze, as if she hadn't digested the news that the great elder had died. She had a shocked expression on her face. If she knew that even the deputy suzerain was dead, she didn't know how to feel. Xuanjia City, the frontier of the Eastern Territory, is only 50,000 miles away from the Northern Territory. Above the space magic circle in the city, the figures of Yang Kai and Ji Yao appeared. Before the two of them could stand still, a sharp calm came over, accompanied by a loud laugh, this man is mine. Yang Kai was stunned, turned his head to look, and saw a big man with a beard flying over there, and slapped his chest fiercely, and he didn't know what kind of enmity or resentment he had. But Yang Kai can be sure that he has never seen this big man with cheeks. Sha Yang, the man belongs to you, and the woman belongs to me. Hiss, this woman is so beautiful, I am blessed. Another voice sounded, and then another figure sprang out from the other side, darting towards Ji Yao, with a lustful light all over her face. It seemed that she wished she could take Ji Yao captive now and love her a lot. The cheeky man named Sha Yang didn't seem to care much about Ji Yao before, but now that he heard it, he quickly looked over at Ji Yao, and found that he was really beautiful, especially his cold and repellent temperament, which was even more so. It is easy to give birth to a conquest. Sha Yang turned around, rushed towards Ji Yao, and shouted, change one, change another. Ji Yupeng, you snatched a woman last time, this time it's Uncle Sha's turn. Unfinished to be continued. Chapter 2618 Get out of the way. While speaking, both Sha Yang and Ji Yupeng flew towards Ji Yao, stretching out their hands to grab her. Ji Yao's face was suddenly cold, and there was a clang, and when the sword light flickered, blood splashed out. Accompanied by 2 screams, the 2 flying over retreated like arrows leaving the string, their faces extremely pale. Slap, 2 severed arms fell to the ground. My arm. Sha Yang looked at the severed arm on the ground. It seemed that he hadn't realized that his arm had been severed until now, and he shouted in panic, and Ji Yupeng's face couldn't look any better. What are you doing? How dare you jump out to seek death with this level of cultivation? Yang Kai looked at the 2 with a strange expression, puzzled. Previously, these 2 guys rushed forward aggressively, one wanted a man and the other wanted a woman. Yang Kai thought how powerful they were, but now when his spiritual sense swept away, he realized that the 2 were only at the 3rd level of Tao origin. Ji Yupeng looked at Yang Kai and Ji Yao in horror, how could it be possible to recover so quickly? Yang Kai frowned, and didn't understand what he meant, but after thinking about it, he suddenly realized, and smiled at the corner of his mouth. Do you think there will be some sequelae when we teleport it? No matter how long-distance space teleportation is carried out, the martial artist will feel dizzy more or less. This is the sequelae of teleportation. When being attacked by someone. Therefore, under normal circumstances, the space magic circles in the major cities are guarded by the warriors of the city lord's mansion. Firstly, they are responsible for protecting the space magic circles from being destroyed, and secondly, they are also protecting the scent warriors from sneak attacks. But the space magic circle of Xuanjia City doesn't seem to be like this. It is located in the center of the city, and there is no one guarding it nearby, but there are some people who want to take advantage of the opportunity to make money and run amok here. These people named Sha Yang and Ji Yupeng wanted to take advantage of Yang Kai and Ji Yao's unresponsiveness to sneak attack, but they kicked onto the iron plate. Yang Kai is proficient in the power of space, and he has already urged the law of space to protect himself and Ji Yao as early as the transmission of Huang Quanzong, so how can the mere transmission affect him? Why did this happen? Sha Yang was also puzzled, with an extremely ugly expression on his face. Because this young master is amazing. Yang Kai grinned, but that smile made Sha Yang and Ji Yupeng tremble with fear and anxiety. My lord, spare my life, my lord, spare my life. Shayong, a big bearded man, immediately begged for mercy. Ji Yupeng's expression flickered, and he turned around to run away. Huh! Ji Yao snorted coldly, turned the long sword in her hand, and threw it, turning into a sword light and stabbing at Ji Yupeng, and caught up with him in an instant, stabbed him heartbroken, and threw herself on the ground. Died on the ground. Ji Yao didn't need to use any real skills at the second level of Emperor Zun to deal with the third level of Daoyuan. When Shayong saw him, his face became paler, his calves trembled, and he said with a mournful face, "Please, my lords, please spare my dog's life." Yang Kai looked at him indifferently, and said coldly, "You seem to have done many such sneak attacks and robberies." No, this is my first time, really the first time." Sha Yang raised his head and said pitifully. "Yang Kai Dao, I often walk by the river, how can I not get my shoes wet? Since you have entered this line of work, you should have the corresponding awareness. You are too young, don't do this kind of thing in your next life." In the next life, Sha Yang was stunned, his eyes filled with horror, and before he could react, Ji Yao had already slapped him, beating him into a pulp. The warriors around were all silent, looking at the icy cold woman who was so beautiful but murderous. They were all terrified and restless, for fear that she would have murderous intentions and turn this place upside down. Yang Kai stretched out his hand to take the two space rings, but didn't look at what was inside. He really didn't pay attention to the space rings of the two Daoyuan third-layer warriors. Anyway, he is now considered a rich man. The man turned his head and ordered to Ji Yao lightly, "Let's go." Ji Yao nodded and flew out with him. Leaving Xuanjia City, Yang Kai pointed in one direction and said, "Yaoer, that should be going to the Northern Territory. Can you recognize the way back to Bingxin Valley?" Ji Yao nodded and said, "Yes." "Then you lead the way, you need to practice for a period of time as a teacher." Yang Kai gave an order, and at the same time threw his own small wooden boat, landed on it, and greeted Ji Yao. Unexpectedly, Ji Yao looked at the small wooden boat, and said a little embarrassedly, "Master, let's use Yaoer's flying secret treasure. You don't seem to be very good." Yang Kai was embarrassed. This small wooden boat was given to him by Jufeng casually back then, and it has a high-grade Daoyuan level. Yang Kai used to think it was quite good, but now that his cultivation base has broken through to the Emperor Senior realm, this small wooden boat is a little different. It fits the status. Ji Yao obviously saw the quality of the wooden boat, so she said that. Since she had something good, Yang Kai didn't refuse, and he put away his small wooden boat with a nod, so as not to be ashamed. Ji Yao pursed her lips and smiled, as if she had sensed Yang Kai's thoughts. She raised her plain hand, and an exquisite small building boat appeared in front of Yang Kai's eyes. This building boat is not big, only about 3 feet long, but it is extremely exquisitely built. It looks like it was made by everyone. There are strong spiritual energy fluctuations on the building boat. It is undoubtedly a good emperor treasure. Yang Kai didn't expect that Ji Yao, who has been crazy all these years, still has such a treasure in his hand. "Master, please." Ji Yao stretched out her hand to signal. Yang Kai hummed pretending to be majestic, and then he came to the building boat in a flash. "Master, find a room to rest by yourself, and leave the rest of the journey to Yaoer." Ji Yao volunteered. "Okay." Yang Kai nodded, with his hands behind his back, walked into the cabin, found a side room and entered. Before he could sit down cross-legged, he felt the building boat shake slightly, and immediately flew up like a wind. The speed is more than 1 level stronger than his small canoe. The speed alone is enough. The key is that the boat is comfortable to stay in, unlike his small canoe, where people sit on it. If the protective cover of the canoe is not activated, if the wind blows against you, your face will be deformed by you. It looks like, I need to find a better flying treasure, otherwise I won't even have the means of transportation in the future. In fact, speaking of it, he still has a pihaisuo in his hand, which is not low grade. It was brought out from the secret realm of solitude, but that thing is not bad for navigating in the deep sea, but it is much worse for traveling. Not as good as his little canoe. After tidying up his thoughts, Yang Kai went into the mysterious boundary bead to check again. The Dharma body has been in a deep sleep since Ruoxi forced the stone and fire source into it last time, sitting cross-legged and motionless, and does not know when the stone and fire source can be truly fully integrated. I went to the medicine garden to have a look, and found that the spiritual grasses and wonderful medicines in the medicine garden were also thriving, and the hundreds of thousands of emperor-level elixir medicines obtained from the wild ancient land did not lose their efficacy. The entire mysterious small world was quiet, making Yang Kai feel a little lost. Every time I came here, there was Ruoxi, Luyan, and Waji. Now there is only one Dharma body left, still in a deep sleep, and there is no one to welcome him. Shaking his head and sighing for a while, Yang Kai left mysterious small world. Sitting in the side room, Yang Kai took out a large number of high-grade source crystals, and took out some emperor-level spirit pills refined last time to assist in cultivation, and then silently practiced the profound arts and began to practice in closed doors. Everything he encountered in the ancient land, especially the sense of powerlessness in the face of the Holy Spirit stone fire, made Yang Kai feel his thirst for strength urgently. Now that he has some free time, he can't wait to enter the state of cultivation. For a time, the extremely rich aura almost turned into substance, filled the entire wing room, and was absorbed into Yang Kai's body visibly with the naked eye. The energy contained in the high-grade source crystal is extremely huge, but even so, Yang Kai's consumption is extremely terrifying. Piles of source crystals were turned into powder, and Yang Kai's strength continued to increase after taking emperor-grade spirit pills one after another. After an unknown amount of time, the building suddenly shook and stopped. Yang Kai was disturbed and woke up from his cultivation, his brows wrinkled, not knowing what happened. Before he could release his divine sense to investigate, Ji Yao's voice came from outside, extremely cold, "Get out of the way." As soon as she finished speaking, an old voice continued, "My lady, please do me a favor. Ms. Shuiman seems to like your building boat very much. Can I ask you to give up your love? Of course, the price is definitely not the same. It will disappoint the girl. Get out of the way." Ji Yao ignored her and returned with just two cold words. The old voice seemed a little annoyed, and he said, "Young lady, why do you reject people thousands of miles away? Miss Shuiman wanted your boat for your own good. The Northern Territory has not been peaceful in recent years. You driving such an exquisite building boat to swagger through the city, I'm afraid it will easily attract the attention of others, and if it attracts some bad people, I'm afraid it will be a worrying fate." "That's right, girl, being convenient for others is also convenient for yourself, and the price guarantees that you won't be disappointed." Another younger voice came out. "What's the situation?" Yang Kai asked as he walked out of the boat, came to the deck, and stood beside Ji Yao. Looking up, I saw a group of 3 people blocking the way ahead. A man, a woman, and an old man. The man and woman seemed to be a couple. They looked close, the man was handsome, the woman was pretty, but they were also a pair of golden boys and girls, only the eyes of the two of them spoiled the impression. The man looked at Ji Yao with a look of astonishment, and when he spoke, his eyes stared straight at Ji Yao, obviously moved by Ji Yao's beauty. But there was a hint of jealousy in the woman's eyes, her big eyes kept turning on Ji Yao's body, and she found that no matter how she compared herself, she was worse than the other party by more than a little bit, and her mood suddenly became unhappy. Sensing the soul-giving expression of the male companion beside her, the woman pinched him even more, causing the man to scream in pain. To be continued. This text is provided by the Dawn Update Group at Biaomingdong Yu Shui Shui. Chapter 2619 Roll. What's the matter? Yang Kai turned to look at Ji Yao and asked. Back to master, these 3 people somehow stopped in front, blocking the way. Ji Yao replied. Master. The 3 people in front of them all showed extremely stunned expressions when they heard the words. After all, from the outside, Yang Kai and Ji Yao seemed to be about the same age, but he didn't expect this man to be the master of this cold woman. The building boat is protected by a protective formation, so even if the old man wants to check the cultivation of Yang Kai and Ji Yao, he can't do anything. But since he can become someone else's master, his cultivation shouldn't be much worse. The old man reckoned that Yang Kai was at least an emperor senior realm. After all, this exquisite building boat was also an emperor treasure, and it was impossible for general Dao origin stage warriors to obtain it. At this point, the old man smiled slightly and said to Yang Kai, "This little brother, don't be nervous, we have no malicious intentions." "Am I nervous?" Yang Kai grinned, thinking that this old man really feels good about himself. He has come all over the barren and ancient lands. The 4 great saints, the 32 demon kings, and the 8 great saints have stirred up troubles in front of him. The great emperor has seen more than one of them. I am afraid that there is no one in the world who can make him nervous. The old man turned a deaf ear and continued, "It's just that Miss Yuewen has taken a fancy to this boat, so this old man wants to discuss with my younger brother, whether I can ask my younger brother to part with her, and I will buy this old boat with money." After a pause, the old man said, "I forgot to introduce myself, the old Xuanlei Pavilion Yan Qing. This is my Xuanlei Pavilion young master Bai Lu, this is the daughter of the Taiping City Lord, Miss Yan Yuewen." After some introduction, no matter the old man, or the 2 young men, a man and a woman, all showed extremely proud expressions, as if Xuanlei Pavilion and Taiping City were some incredible powers. The young master of the Xuanlei Pavilion, Bai Lu, even smiled softly, cupped his fists and said, "Have you asked the girl's name yet?" He directly inquired about Ji Yao's name, but he didn't take Yang Kai to heart, obviously he was moved by Ji Yao's beauty. Although Yan Yuewen, the daughter of the city lord, is not bad, but compared with Ji Yaoyi, she is much worse. As soon as these words came out, Yan Yuewen, who was standing beside him, kicked him fiercely, glared at him, and shouted coquettishly, "Why are you asking this? Did you fall in love with him? You bastard, it's not enough to have me alone, but I still miss others, I will kill you and kill you." As he spoke, he punched and kicked Bai Lu, but it was nothing more than a punch to show off his legs. Not only did he not hurt anyone, but he seemed to be acting like a baby, which made Bai Lu laugh out loud, and stretched out his hand to hug Yan Yuewen. In his arms, he looked like a winner in life. Yan Qing said without looking sideways, "The young master and Miss Yuewen are used to messing around, so don't take it to heart." Ji Yao said coldly, "Your matter has nothing to do with us, master and I have to hurry, please step aside." Yan Qing said, "Girl, my young master just wants to buy this building boat. I said I won't sell it." Ji Yao's expression became even colder. Bai Lu smiled gently, and said, "Girl, don't be so cold. As the saying goes, many friends have many paths, but it's just a boat. If you make an offer, I will definitely not bargain." "Okay." Yang Kai stood up, looked at Bai Lu with a smile, and said, "I just like young Master Bai, who has strength and financial resources. He is elegant and classy. Since young Master Bai is so straightforward, then this building will be sold." "Well, Yaoer, what do you think?" Ji Yao frowned, but still nodded and said, "Master said sell, so let's sell." Bai Lu cupped his fists and said, "Then thank you, miss." He only talked to Ji Yao from the beginning to the end, as if he didn't see Yang Kai at all, but at this moment he turned to look at Yang Kai and said, "I don't know how much you want to ask for." 100 million, Yang Kai said lightly. "If young Master Bai can give 100 million, then this boat will be yours." Bai Lu's expression remained unchanged, he nodded slightly and said, 100 million. Flying Emperor treasure, the price is not expensive. Not only is it not expensive, it is simply not too cheap. He thought that Yang Kai was deliberately showing favor and wanted to make friends with him. After all, as the young master of Xuanlei Pavilion, not everyone can make friends with him. Xuanlei Pavilion is also considered a good force in the Northern Territory. Wei Wei he smiled and said, "Old Yan, pay the money." "Yes." Yan Qing nodded, fiddled a bit, and then threw a space ring at Yang Kai. Yang Kai took it, swept his spiritual mind, smiled slightly, and put away the space ring, while saying, "Young Master Bai, the number of source crystals seems to be a bit wrong." "What's wrong?" Bai Lu frowned, turned to look at Yan Qing and said, "Old Yan, have you checked carefully?" Yan Qing said, "With 100 million source crystals, it's impossible for me to make a mistake." 100 million source crystals is right. Yang Kai nodded, and changed the subject, however, that is just a low-grade source crystal. Yan Qing's expression changed when he heard the words, and he said, "Isn't what you want a low-grade source crystal? Could it be a middle-grade source crystal?" "What?" Bai Lu was also taken aback. 100 million middle-grade source crystals, but 10 billion low-grade source crystals, this person is really embarrassed to speak. "No, no, no." Yang Kai raised a finger and shook it, "It's not 100 million middle-grade source crystals, what I want is 100 million top-grade source crystals." You're crazy." Bai Lu was shocked. 100 million high-grade source crystals. Bai Lu didn't even dare to think about this number, and he didn't know how the person in front of him dared to bring it up. Although Xuanlei Pavilion's power is good, even if they emptied out their wealth, they still can't gather so many high-grade source crystals. An Emperor-class building ship, even if it is not bad, cannot be worth so much. For a moment, Yan Lao's eyes showed fierceness. Yang Kai said with a smile. Master Bai himself said that he would never make a counter-offer just now, but now he wants to go back on his word. He is a man, he spit on a nail. It seems that young Master Bai's reputation is not very good. Ji Yao pursed her lips and smiled. Earlier Yang Kai said that she sold the building, although she felt a little bit reluctant, but she had to listen to Master's words. Until now she knew that Yang Kai had no intention of selling her building, he was just teasing others, that's all. Since when did Master have such leisure and elegance? In her memory, the Master has always looked icy, and only when facing a few of their disciples, the coldness on his face will melt away, but he has never looked like today. Thinking about it, Ji Yao suddenly felt that something was wrong. Her eyebrows wrinkled all of a sudden, and she looked at Yang Kai next to her in confusion. That stalwart figure seemed different from the one in his memory. Boy, you're kidding me. Bai Lu was furious. Yang Kai snorted coldly. Where did young Master Bai come from? The three of you waited for the three of you to block the way of my master and apprentice regardless of indiscriminately, and insisted on buying Yao's secret treasure of the building. I just wanted to help young Master Bai with good intentions. That's all. It's all right if young Master Bai doesn't appreciate this young master, why bother to rant like this? Could it be that young Master Bai really thinks that young master is easy to bully? When Bai Lu heard this, he was instantly enraged, and his whole body burned like a volcano. It was obvious that the other party was playing with him, but in his mouth he became the reasonable party, which made him really angry, and shouted, Old Yan, kill this bastard for me. Yan Qing always wanted to kill, but when he heard Bai Lu's order, he immediately killed him without hesitation. Bai Lu hurriedly said again, don't hurt that girl. At this time, he still remembers Ji Yao's beauty, which shows that it is true that women have unique advantages at certain times. Old Yan came out of nowhere, with Emperor Yuan rolling all over his body. The cultivation base of the first level of Emperor Zun burst out in full force, and he slapped the building with his palm. The protection of the building boat was shattered under the power of this palm, and it did not have any defensive ability. Yang Kai was stunned, secretly feeling something was wrong, because this building boat was also an emperor treasure. Its defense ability could not be so weak. He turned his head to look at Ji Yao, but saw that she was looking at him blankly at this moment. Beautiful, the eyes are full of confusion. Not good. Yang Kai was secretly startled, and he didn't know what went wrong, which made Ji Yao have a tendency to relapse. During this period of time, Ji Yao has been calm and peaceful by his side, but she doesn't want to have a problem at this juncture. The reason why the building's defense ability is so poor is obviously because the mood of the owner of the building has fluctuated. Boy, if you dare to play tricks on my young pavilion master, you will definitely die today. Yan Lao broke through the protection of the building and boat, his confidence increased, and he slapped Yang Kai aggressively. Undulating, as if to smash him into a pulp on the spot. Yang Kai stretched out his hand, embraced the dazed Ji Yao in his arms, urged Emperor Yuan to cover her, and at the same time greeted her with a palm, and said, get lost. Ji Yao suddenly had a problem. He was very worried, and he was not in the mood to mess around with these people anymore. This blow came out in anger. It was not something Yan Qing could resist at all. Although he and Yang Kai are both at the Emperor senior tier, it has always been commonplace for Yang Kai to leapfrog to kill enemies. Don't say that Yan Qing is only a first-level emperor, even a third level, he is not afraid. Boom! There was a loud noise and a strong wind. Under the collision of Di Yuan, Yan Qing let out a muffled snort, as if struck by lightning. I just feel that my own Emperor Yuan and laws are like bubbles, and they are suddenly smashed by a huge force, and the huge force spreads all the way up his arm, smashing his entire arm into pieces, flying all over the sky. With a wow, Yan Qing spurted blood and fell on his back. Yang Kai stood in place, protecting Ji Yao, motionless, like a god descending to earth. Yuan Ting Yu Ji. This. Bai Lu was stunned, and watched as Yan Lao fell and flew out. A large amount of blood spattered in the air, and his body suddenly trembled violently. And Yan Shuiman, who had been hugged in his arms all the time, also had a pretty face pale and her teeth trembling. How could the two of them not know that they had provoked a powerful enemy? They thought it would be an easy task to take down the young man with Yan Lao, the emperor, guarding him, but they didn't know that the result of the matter was completely opposite to their expectations, which was unacceptable. To be continued. Chapter 2620 Spring Breeze 8 Sides. Yang Kai glanced over and landed on the two of them coldly. Bai Lu was dripping with cold sweat, and tremblingly said, "What do you want to do? I am the young pavilion master of Xuanlei Pavilion, if something happens to me, you will be finished." Feeling that he is not an opponent, he can only move out of his own background, and wants Yang Kai to be a mouse. "Get out." Yang spit out a word. Bai Lu trembled all over, as if he had received an amnesty. He turned around and fled. Before leaving, even Yan Shuiman forgot, but in the end Yan Shuiman stamped his feet and chased after him. Not far away, Yan Qing climbed up from the ground with a pale face, glanced at Yang Kai's direction with incomparable dread, and hurriedly chased towards Bai Lu. Although he had lost one arm, the emperor, the foundation of dignity, is still there, and there is no fear of life, but I am afraid that I will be disabled in this lifetime. "Yaoer." Yang Kai turned his head and called softly. Those two simple words seemed like a sharp sword pierced into Ji Yao's eyes, pushing away the light that was blocking her eyes. Ji Yao's tender body shook, and she woke up suddenly. "Master." Yang Kai couldn't help exhaling, and asked tentatively, "What happened to you just now?" Ji Yao frowned and said, "Just now? What happened just now?" She didn't seem to have any impression of what happened just now. She turned her head and said in surprise, "Hey, where are those three annoying people?" Yang Kai smiled and said, "I was beaten away by my teacher, so I don't need to look for it." Ji Yao glanced at the blood on the ground and knew that what Yang Kai said was true, so she said, "Those guys should be killed." Yaoer even said that they won't sell the building boats, but they insist on messing around, and don't I know how many times I have done strong buying and strong selling. Yes, it should be killed. Yang Kai didn't dare to say anything, he could only follow her wishes, and asked a little nervously, "Yaoer, how do you feel now?" Ji Yao looked at him curiously, and said, "Yaoer is fine, master, let's go to rest first, in a few days, we will be able to return to the valley." Yang Kai Dao. "You put away the building boat, let's find a place to rest first." Suddenly something happened to Ji Yao, and Yang Kai didn't know if it was because she had been using her strength all this time, and he didn't dare to let her drive the boat anymore. If she becomes delirious again, things will be troublesome. It might do her good to give her a break. Ji Yao naturally obeyed Yang Kai's words, immediately put away the building boat, and flew forward together with Yang Kai. Half a day later, a city appeared ahead. The two fell down, came to the gate of the city, paid some source crystals and entered the city smoothly. This city seems to be extremely prosperous, the city is bustling with people, the streets are extremely spacious, there are many shops on both sides, and the goods for sale are even more dazzling, making people dizzy. They found an inn, and the two went in. The shopkeeper of the inn stood behind the counter, glanced at Yang Kai and Ji Yao, and asked with a smile, "You two staying here? Why don't you stay here?" Yang Kai snorted. The shopkeeper said with a dry smile, "The two of you want one room or two rooms?" Yang Kai frowned, glanced at Ji Yao, and said, "Let's go to the room." He really doesn't dare to let Ji Yao out of his sight now, at least he can observe more if they live together, but he has no other thoughts. Naturally, Ji Yao also had no objection. In her mind, it was only natural for her to share a room with her master. On the other hand, the shopkeeper looked at Yang Kai meaningfully, showed a knowing smile, took out a room card, and handed it over respectfully. "The 5th floor, room A, number 3, guests, please rest assured, this small inn, but if you have arranged the formations in each guest room, everyone will absolutely protect the privacy, no matter what happens inside, they will not be heard outside." Speaking of the latter, he was even more elated, looking obscene. Hee. Yang Kai took the house card with a smile on his face and asked, "The price?" 10,000 low-grade source crystals. The shopkeeper replied with a smile. Yang Kai waved and took out 10,000 low-grade source crystals and threw them on the counter before leading Ji Yao up the stairs. "On the 5th floor, I found room number 3 of Jazi, used the room card to unlock the room, and walked in. After looking around, the guest room is not very spacious, but it has all the furniture used. The red carpet on the floor and the gold silk quilt on the bed give people a luxurious feeling. 10,000 low-grade source crystals are worth the money." After watching for a while, Yang Kai sat down, and Ji Yao skillfully took out a set of tea sets from the space ring, boiled the tea, and after a while, the room was filled with a mellow tea fragrance. After turning off the fire, cut the water, and poured tea. Ji Yao respectfully handed the teacup to Yang Kai and said, "Master, please use it." Yeah, Yang Kai took it in a big way, and slowly tasted it. After a long time, he suddenly came to his senses and said, "Sit down too." Disciple, just stand. Ji Yao stared at Yang Kai for a moment. To her, it seemed that she was the happiest thing to be able to watch her master drink the tea she had cooked. It's a sweet smile. If I tell you to sit, you can sit, Yang Kai said with a firm attitude. Yes, Ji Yao couldn't resist him, so he could only sit down as he said. After being silent for a while, Yang Kai suddenly said, "Yaoer. The disciple is here." Ji Yao responded quickly. Yang Kai clenched his fist and coughed dryly, and then said awkwardly, "If one day, you find out that Master has concealed and deceived you about certain things, I hope you can understand the whole life of Master. It's been a painstaking effort." Conceal and deceive? Ji Yao frowned and asked curiously, "Is there anything Master wants to conceal and deceive Yaoer?" Yang Kai smiled and said, "I just said it casually, but if there is that time, don't blame me. But you can rest assured that the teacher will not do things that are sorry for you, let alone hurt you. It is only a few days away from Bingxin Valley, and once he returns to Bingxin Valley and sees Bingyan, Yang Kai doesn't know how Ji Yao will react. The best case scenario is that she suddenly wakes up and realizes she's just a fake. When that time really comes, Ji Yao will surely recall the thing that he verbally took advantage of her during this period. That's all. I also want to stabilize her. I believe she will understand. The point is that in the Luanfeng Palace, I have seen her whole body. Even though it was just a glance, it also related to Ji Yao's reputation. Yang Kai is not sure if she will fight with him. Put the words here first, even if Ji Yao fully recovers by then, she will surely forgive herself. Yaoer believes in Master, Ji Yao said with a serious face. Yaoer and several senior teachers and sisters are orphans. It is Master who showed mercy and taught us to raise us. Yaoer can have today, thanks to the gift of Master. It doesn't matter if Master wants Yaoer's life. Yang Kai was sweating profusely, thinking that you will be thankful if you don't look for me to work hard. But what she said made Yang Kai realize that Bing Yun held the supreme position in the hearts of her disciples. "Master," Ji Yao called softly, and said, "Master, what's the matter? Do you need Yaoer to help you solve your problems?" "No, don't think too much." Yang Kai smiled slightly. Ji Yao got up and walked towards him, wrapped in a scent of fragrance, said, "Yaoer is useless, please ask Master to let Yaoer rub your shoulders." Huh, Yang Kai was stunned. Before he could react, Ji Yao had already stood behind him, gently kneading. Yang Kai froze all over, feeling overwhelmed. Since he came to Starfield, he has been pure-minded and ascetic, and focused on becoming stronger. But he is also a man and has his own. The last time I accidentally saw Ji Yao's body, I almost got a nosebleed. Now that this lonely man and widow are in the same room, Ji Yao even took the initiative to rub his shoulders for him. Not only that, but the warm body was still attached to his back, sniffing the scent from the tip of his nose, which made Yang Kai feel distracted for a while, and his throat felt dry. But Ji Yao laughed softly behind her back. "Master, your shoulders are so hard, is it because you have been too tired all this time?" Yang Kaixin thought, how can a man's body like mine be compared to Bingyan's warm and fragrant nephrite? Of course the feeling of pinching is different. She intends to refuse this kind of thing, but she is afraid that Ji Yao's overthinking will affect her current state, so she can only bite the bullet and say, "It's a little bit." Ji Yao smiled and said, "Master, just relax, Yaoer hasn't served Master for many years, and I don't know if this skill has fallen." Hearing what she said, Yang Kai knew that when he was in Bingxin Valley, Ji Yao should often need for Bingyan, so he was so familiar with the road. Can't stop or refuse, Yang Kai can only enjoy it with peace of mind, gradually relax physically and mentally. As Ji Yao's jade hands fall with different strengths, the whole person is as comfortable as falling into the clouds, and he hums in his mouth. Ji Yao blushed when she heard this, and thought to herself why Master would make such a strange sound, but she was too embarrassed to ask more. After pinching the shoulders, pinching the arms and pinching the head, not even letting go of the two thighs. After some service, Yang Kai felt comfortable physically and mentally. He praised Ji Yao's craftsmanship, and Ji Yao's smile was like a flower, and he couldn't help but laugh. It's just that the scene of Ji Yao kneeling in front of him and pinching her thigh really made Yang Kai feel exciting and evocative. After enjoying it, Yang Kai's complexion became bitter again. He felt that when Ji Yao regained consciousness in the future, there would be another crime for him, and he felt sad and regretted for a while. After a peaceful night, Yang Kai and Ji Yao meditated on the bed and the ground respectively. Ji Yao didn't show any bad symptoms, which made Yang Kai feel a lot better. It wasn't until noon on the second day that the two walked out of the room one by one, went to the counter on the first floor and checked out. Seeing Yang Kai's breezy appearance, the shopkeeper was very envious, and said with a meaningful smile, "Did you rest well last night?" "Very good." Yang Kai nodded. How could he not know the dirty thoughts in this guy's heart? "I don't even bother to say anything to him. Since the customer thinks it is good, next time you come to Taiping City, please be sure to visit the shop." The shopkeeper nodded and bowed, and sent Yang Kai and Ji Yao out. To be continued. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update Group at Biaoming Dong Kong Shui. Chapter 2621 Big and Brainless. Taiping City. Yang Kai walked out of the inn, thought about it carefully, and suddenly said, "Isn't this the city where the woman named Yan Shuiman is?" When the three people who stopped the way and wanted to buy a boat from Ji Yao Tower, the old man introduced a man and a woman, and said that the man was the young master of Xuanlei Pavilion, and the woman was the daughter of the city lord of Taiping City. When entering the city yesterday, Yang Kai was concerned about Ji Yao's state, but he didn't care about the name of the city, until now he knew that this place was actually Taiping City. This is a bit of a coincidence. But Yang Kai is not afraid. A mere city is not qualified to make him afraid. Leading Ji Yao all the way to the outside of the city, he arrived at the gate of the city in a short while. Many people at the gate are waiting in line to leave the city, and there are many warriors at the gate who are under martial law. Everyone who goes out of the city must accept the review of those warriors. Yang Kai couldn't help frowning when he saw this scene. He didn't know if it was the inherent rules of Taiping City, or something happened. "Master, could it be because of those three people yesterday?" Ji Yao suddenly asked in a low voice, "Are they looking for us? How can there be such a coincidence?" Yang Kai chuckled, "We didn't disturb anyone when we entered the city yesterday, maybe something else went wrong in this city." Ji Yao nodded slightly. The two of them didn't force their way through the gates of the city by relying on their high level of cultivation. Since they came to their territory, it didn't matter if they followed their rules, so they lined up behind the crowd honestly and waited to leave the city. The warriors guarding the city gates inspected very carefully, and they even secretly detected those who were about to leave the city with a series of divine senses. One by one, the warriors were checked and released, and the team gradually moved forward. Patriarch Dong. Suddenly, a voice came from a room next to the city gate. "Have you found it yet?" Another person asked, who seemed to be the owner of the Dong family. "I haven't found it yet." The person who spoke first replied, "But Patriarch Dong, please rest assured that the other three city gates have been closed urgently. If Mrs. Zun wants to leave the city, she will definitely go through this gate. If she shows up, we're sure to find her. It's too much work for the leader. Hey, what a misfortune for the family." The Patriarch Dong sighed deeply. Commander Yu suddenly smiled softly and said, "Patriarch Dong, as far as you knows, the virtuous couple has always been loving, and they often go in and out of Taiping City in pairs, envious of others. How could there be such a feud overnight? Why did the honored lady run away from home? Patriarch Dong even resorted to the power of our city lord's mansion to find her." When the leader asked this question, the room suddenly fell silent, as if it was difficult to speak. Commander Yu said again, "If Patriarch Dong is inconvenient to say something, it should be assumed that you didn't ask." "Hey." Patriarch Dong sighed heavily, and said, "As the saying goes, family ugliness should not be publicized. Dong wanted to calm things down and not make things worse, but that foolish woman insisted on forcing me. In fact, there is nothing wrong with that. It's convenient to say, it's just that the foolish woman became greedy for a while and stole the township treasure of my Dong family." Theft. Commander Yu was taken aback. Shouldn't it be? Mrs. Dong is under one person and above 10,000, and Yu has also heard that Mrs. Zun seems to be from a great sect. Is there anything in the Dong family that she can take without telling her? What? Dong, I don't know if she has been blinded by eating too much lard, and she did such a shameful thing. The head of Dong's family said bitterly, and then said solemnly, "Commander Yu, I still hope that Dong's family will treat you in the past. For your good sake, find that foolish woman and take her down quietly, don't disturb others, especially City Lord Yan." Commander Yu replied, "I understand, Patriarch Dong, please rest assured." The two were talking in a low voice in the room. Although the voice was low, Yang Kai could hear it clearly. He didn't mean to eavesdrop, but just accidentally overheard. But after doing this, he understood why Taiping City was under martial law. It turned out that the mistress of a family stole a treasure of the town, which provoked the head of the family to come to hunt it down, and borrowed the power of the city lord's mansion. This is a complete family ugliness. The helplessness between Patriarch Dong's words and Yang Kai, who listened to the pain, were secretly funny. It is estimated that he is also in a state of desperation at the moment. Cover up. I don't know what was stolen, which aroused the greed of the mistress of the family. The team continued to move forward, and within a short while, Yang Kai and Ji Yao were almost at the city gate. At this moment, a stream of light suddenly flew from outside the city, shooting straight towards the city gate. "Who, don't be presumptuous in front of the gate of Taiping City." A warrior guarding the gate shouted, and at the same time flew up to meet him. The streamer paused, revealing two figures, a man and a woman. "Blind your dog eyes, you dare to yell without seeing who this young master is." The man snorted coldly. The martial artist guarding the city gate fixed his eyes, and immediately shook like a sieve, and hurriedly said, "So it's young Master Bai and Miss Yan." This man and a woman are unexpectedly Bai Lu and Yan Shuimin who met Yang Kai yesterday, and they don't know where they came back from, but the old Yan who was with them yesterday is nowhere to be seen. Gone. Go away. Bai Lu seemed to be in a bad mood. He slapped the martial artist blocking the way with his palm, and the martial artist he hit flew back upside down, spitting blood in midair. It was extremely miserable. Under the attention of a pair of eyes, Bai Lu and Yan Shuimin rushed straight into the city gate and landed on the ground. Their eyes were intertwined, as if they were the boss and my second child. But soon, Bai Lu's eyeballs trembled, his body trembled even more, and he stared in a certain direction in horror. In that direction, Yang Kai was looking at him faintly. He lost face in front of Yang Kai yesterday, almost lost his life. How could Bai Lu forget Yang Kai's appearance? It was only a day's work, and he didn't want to meet again in front of the gate of Taiping City. The scene of Yan Lao whose arm was crushed by his palm, who was as strong as Emperor Senior Realm, is still vivid in his memory. Bai Lu was really afraid of Yang Kai from the bottom of his heart, and couldn't help it. Even his body became half shorter, and his aura was completely gone. "What's the matter?" Yan Shuimin, who was following him, noticed his abnormality, and couldn't help asking softly. While asking, she followed his gaze, and the next moment her pretty face was white, and her eyes dodged. She undoubtedly also saw Yang Kai. "Let's go," Bai Lu shouted, looked away, pulled Yan Shuimin away from here as if fleeing, and rushed into the city in a blink of an eye. The warriors of the city lord's mansion were amazed and looked at each other, wondering what happened to young Master Bai and Miss Yan today. At the corner of a street, Bai Lu and Yan Shuimin poked their heads out, quietly watching in the direction of the city gate. Yan Shuimin said in a trembling voice, "Those two, why are they here?" Bai Lu said with a blue face, "You ask me who I ask." The big loss they suffered yesterday really scared this pair of men and women. Seeing Yang Kai now is like a mouse seeing a cat, wishing to immediately find a hole to hide in. Suddenly, Yan Shuimin seemed to think of something, frowned and said, "No, this is Taiping City. Miss Ben is afraid of what they will do. No way, I have to tell Dad quickly, and let Dad teach them a lesson." After talking, he went to the city lord's mansion to find his father. Bai Lu grabbed her and said with a serious face, "Why are you so big-chested and brainless?" Who has big breasts and no brains?" Yan Shuimin said angrily. "Bai Lu Dao, old Yan and your father are on the same level in cultivation, and even old Yan is not an enemy of that man in a single blow. Do you think that even if your father comes over, what can you do to that man? When your father comes if you are dead, don't cry in front of this young master." When Yan Shuimin heard this, her pretty face turned pale, and she thought it was true. Even Yan Lao had an arm knocked off by that man, so how could her father be an opponent? "If I really call my father, I'm afraid it will be bad luck. The one who suffers is Daddy. Then what should I do?" Yan Shuimin was in a hurry. "Why don't you go and call Uncle Bai over here? Uncle Bai has a cultivation level at the second level of Emperor Senior, so it shouldn't be a problem to deal with that person." Bai Lu shook his head and said, "I still don't know how to tell Dad about the matter of old Yan. Emperor Xuanlei Pavilion doesn't have many respects, and old Yan suffered such a serious injury. If Dad knew about it, he would definitely take my skin off. Speaking of it, it's all your fault. Why do you have to buy other people's boats if you have nothing to do?" Even the exhausted old Yan lost his arm. As soon as he was accused, Yan Shuimin's eyes immediately turned red, and she said in a trembling voice, My surname Bai, why didn't you talk about this when you and Miss Ben were in love together, and now you are accusing me again, do you still have any conscience? When she cried like this, Bai Lu only felt upset, but he had no choice but to comfort him. Okay, don't cry. What happened yesterday was my fault, it's none of your business. You're bad, you're bad, you're bad. Yan Shuiman yelled, and another punch came. Don't make trouble. Bai Lu didn't have the heart to mess with her. He quickly grabbed her hand and said, it's important to send these two plague gods away first, they seem to be leaving the city, hiss. While speaking, Bai Lu pulled Yan Shuiman to hide back in a hurry. Because he saw Yang Kai turned his head and glanced at their direction with a smile, that glance almost scared his heart out. At the city gate, Yang Kai, who was waiting in line to leave the city, turned his head and sneered. He didn't expect that young Master Bai and Yan Shuiman would react that way when they met him today, but it's easy, if they really don't know what to do and want the strong to take revenge, Yang Kai doesn't mind fighting here, make a fuss. Cough, cough, cough. There was a violent coughing sound, and an old woman in front of her was on the verge of falling, but suddenly she leaned back and almost fell to the ground. With sharp eyes and quick hands, Ji Yao supported her, and asked with concern, Mother-in-law, are you okay? To be continued. Chapter 2622 Madame Dong. Chapter 2622, Madame Dong. The old woman coughed a few more times, coughing until the sky was dark, as if she was about to cough out her heart and lungs. It took a long time to catch her breath. She turned her head and said weakly, it's okay, it's just that I'm a little older, thank you little girl. Ji Yao shook her head. Before she could let go of her hand, the old woman's calf went limp again. Panicked, Ji Yao hurriedly grabbed her, frowned and said, Mother-in-law, let me help you. The old woman said, thank you, the little girl is kind-hearted, and there will be good rewards in the future, ahem. Ji Yao smiled slightly, and said, Master often teaches us disciples to respect the old and love the young when we go out for a walk, but it's just a matter of little effort. Oldo smiled lightly and said, the little girl is not bad, and the respected teacher also teaches well. I don't know which sect the girl is from. Ji Yao shook her head, smiled but did not answer. Yang Kai's eyes flashed, and he smiled and said, respecting the old and loving the young is a virtue, but you must carefully polish your eyes when you go out for a walk. Don't be easily deceived, you must know that there are many intrigues and sinister people in this world. Maybe when you do a good deed but are taken advantage of by someone with a heart, then you are helping the evil, don't you think so, mother-in-law? The old woman trembled inadvertently, and said with a forced smile, this little brother is right. Ji Yao nodded earnestly and said, the disciple has written it down. Disciple. The old woman was startled when she heard the words, and faintly realized that the master Ji Yao had mentioned earlier was actually the man standing behind her, which made her feel a little unbelievable. Grandma, your earrings are very delicate. Yang Kai suddenly said without thinking. The old woman was startled, and touched her earlobe subconsciously, but there was nothing there. She turned her head and forced a smile and said, my brother is young, so I can't see things well. My old woman, I am old, how can I get rid of it? What earrings do you want to wear? Yang Kai Dao. I didn't wear it today, I'm afraid I wore it yesterday, your pierced ears are very clear, it doesn't look like you haven't worn jewelry all year round. His words were full of guns and sticks. Even if Ji Yao was a fool, he could realize that something was wrong, and with a movement in his heart, he quietly urged Emperor Yuan to pour into the old woman's body. The next moment, Ji Yao's expression turned cold. She grabbed the old woman's arm and said coldly, who are you, why are you lying to me? She didn't pay much attention to it before, and it was only after some investigations that she found out that this old lady who seemed to be dying of illness was full of vitality inside her body. The superficial oldness was obviously not her true face, and everything was disguised by her. This made Ji Yao angry. She was supporting him with good intentions just now, but she didn't know that this old woman really had ulterior motives. It really pissed her off. The old woman's cultivation base is not high, she only has the 3rd level of Daoyuan, she can't move after being grabbed by Ji Yao like this, her source power is suppressed in her body and she can't move. Now she is really panicked, praying and looking at Ji Yao. She said in a low voice, Senior, I don't have any malicious intentions but I was forced to make such a bad move. I hope that there are a lot of seniors, so don't point me out. Ji Yao's expression changed. She glanced at the martial artists at the city gate, and said, are they here for you? The old woman nodded silently. Why would you think of using me? Ji Yao asked coldly. The old woman said, when young Master Bai and Miss Yan entered the city, they seemed to be very afraid of you, so. Yang Kai raised his brows and said, Madame Dong is really good-sighted, you can spot even such a small matter. When the old woman heard it, her body trembled suddenly, she looked at Yang Kai in horror and said, You know me. Mrs. Dong. Ji Yao also frowned, not sure why her master called out the identity of this old woman. As far as she knew, it was the first time for her and her master to come to Taiping City, and there were no acquaintances here. Yang Kai Dao. I don't know, but I have heard people talking about you. What did they say about me? The old woman asked tremblingly, as if she really wanted to know. Yang Kai said indifferently, the wife of the patriarch of the Dong family stole the treasures of the family and town. The patriarch is furious, please mobilize the strong men of the city lord's mansion, and enforce strict martial law here, search for Madame Dong's whereabouts, if found, they will be quietly arrested. Quote. Stealing the treasures of the family and town. The old woman smiled wryly when she heard the words, this crime. I don't dare to be a concubine. Ji Yao frowned and said, could it be that what my master said is wrong? Mrs. Dong shook her head and said, I have never seen such a town treasure, and the Dong family has no such thing at all. I have been married to the Dong family for so many years, and I am the wife of the head of the family. If there is any town treasure, I will return it to you. May not know. Then why do they slander you so much? Ji Yao was curious. Mrs. Dong said, of course it's because they want to catch me. Ji Yao seemed to want to ask again, but Yang Kai already waved his hand and said, Madame Dong, we are not interested in your affairs, you want to use us to go out of the city, I don't care about it like you are asking for blessings. My lord, Mrs. Dong looked at Yang Kai imploringly, and said, what happened before is that I made a mistake, and I only ask that my lord can take me out of Taiping City. Report. Yang Kai sneered, what can you repay? I don't want to get involved in other people's muddy water. Grown-ups, if you say one more word, this young master will capture you and throw you out. Yang Kai looked at her coldly. Madame Dong immediately shivered, she did not doubt that Yang Kai had this ability, Ji Yao as a disciple could subdue her in an instant, how could Yang Kai, as a master, be so bad? She had hoped to persuade Yang Kai to help, but it was just wishful thinking. Turning around in a daze, and standing in the middle of the line, Mrs. Dong really dared not say anything. Master, this person's disguise is so brilliant. Ji Yao quietly sent a voice transmission to Yang Kai. If Yang Kai hadn't noticed it before, she might never have thought that such an old woman was actually disguised. This is not a secret technique, but a pure disguise technique, not everyone can master it. Yang Kai nodded slightly, and said, it's really clever, if I didn't have preconceived ideas, I'm afraid it would be difficult to notice her. It was just hearing some conversations between Commander Yu and Patriarch Dong, coupled with the fresh piercings in the old woman's ears, that made Yang Kai suspicious of her. Master, are we really standing by and watching? She seems to have something to hide. Seeing the old woman's distraught look, Ji Yao couldn't help feeling a little compassion. Yang Kai said indifferently, the world is so cunning, we don't know who is right and who is wrong in this matter, if we intervene rashly, maybe we are doing something for the tiger. Yes, Ji Yao nodded. While the two were talking, the line had already reached the old woman's place. A warrior guarding the city gate waved to the old woman, who walked over tremblingly. The warrior opened a cloth bag in his hand and put it in front of the old woman for her to have a look. With just one glance, the old woman's face suddenly changed drastically, and then, there was a creaking sound from the cloth bag, as if some monster was screaming. But the old woman's figure flickered, and she no longer had the trembling and wind-blown appearance before. She was in a mess of vigor, and rushed directly to the outside of the city gate. Grab her, the warrior yelled, since you've come out, let's stay. The voice of another person came out, and then, a saber light pierced through the air, cutting towards the old woman's only way forward. The old woman's complexion changed again, knowing that if she forced herself to move forward again, she would definitely be injured, so she had no choice but to take a few steps back. Swipe. One after another figures suddenly rushed out from all around, shooting towards the old woman one after another. And after being delayed for a moment, when the old woman came back to her senses, she was already surrounded by those people. Hey! Looking at this scene, Ji Yao couldn't help sighing, she knew that the old woman had no hope of escaping. The old woman is only at the 3rd level of Daoyuan, and there are 5 or 6 people around her at the 3rd level of Daoyuan. each of whom is no worse than the old woman, and there are so many people, if the old woman is called to run, which is really a joke. It's the elders of the Dong family. That's right, it really is the elders of the Dong family. It's strange, what are they doing here, who is that old woman, and how did they provoke the Dong family? There were voices of discussion from nearby warriors, and they were all curious about the scene in front of them. However, although the elders of the Dong family surrounded the old woman, they were not in a hurry to act. Obviously they all knew the true identity of the old woman, and they looked at the old woman with extremely complicated eyes for a while. After all, this is the wife of the head of the house, and she is not inferior to them in terms of status. 2 more people came out from the side and came to the city gate. The warriors guarding the city gate clasped their fists and saluted when they saw them. I've seen too much of a leader. I've seen Patriarch Dong. Yang Kai glanced around and found that one of the 2 men was wearing black armor, majestic, and the other was wearing a blue robe, with a calm and majestic expression. Both of them are Daoyuan 3rd layer realm. The person wearing Xuanjia should be Commander Yu, and the other person is naturally the patriarch of the Dong family. The old woman turned around, fixed her gaze on the patriarch of the Dong family, gritted her teeth and said, "Let me go." Patriarch Dong slowly shook his head and said, "You know this is impossible. Please, let me go. If I don't go today, I will go tomorrow. You can't stop me. Break your legs, destroy your cultivation, how do you go?" Patriarch Dong said coldly. The old woman was shocked when she heard the words, she couldn't believe it and said, "You and I have been husband and wife for 100 years, do you really want to be so heartless? Couple." As soon as the old woman said that, the warriors' onlookers were startled, thinking that the wife of the head of the Dong family is as beautiful as a flower. When did she become an old woman? For a while, everyone was whispering, making Patriarch Dong's face extremely ugly. The old woman standing in midair stretched out her hand to wipe her face, except for the disguise, revealing a flowery and delicate face. Hiss, it's really Mrs. Dong. How could this happen? Hey, what's going on in the Dong family? This is a good show. The wife of the head of the family actually wants to escape from the Dong family, and the Dong family is here to intercept them. I don't know what's going on. To be continued. Daybreak update group at Biaoming Dong still has snow to offer. Chapter 2623. Maybe it's because Mrs. Dong found another new love, so she wanted to leave Patriarch Dong, but Patriarch Dong would agree, so he brought someone to arrest her and go back. Brother Tai is right. For a moment, everyone looked at Patriarch Dong sympathetically, as if his head was already green, which made Patriarch Dong's face even more gloomy, and shouted, "Foolish woman, look at what you have done." Mrs. Dong stood in midair, looked at the head of the Dong family with a desolate expression, and said sadly, "Dong Hai, do you really not care about the relationship between husband and wife at all?" Dong Hai's face twitched slightly, a trace of struggle flashed in his eyes, and he sighed, "Tianhe, if you still think about the love between husband and wife, just obediently follow me back to Dong's house, and never leave Taiping City again, you my husband and I will live together forever." Madame Dong burst into tears, shook her head and said, "Dong Hai, you know why I left, and you also know what I am here for, so don't embarrass me." Dong Hai sternly said, "You are pushing the Dong family to a dead end." I'm sorry. Mrs. Dong's tears fell down her cheeks in big drops, her face was full of self-blame and guilt, as if she had really done something that both people and gods were angry with, and the onlookers were confused. Have no idea what the hell is going on here. Come back with me. I won't pursue what happened today, and neither will the Dong family. You are still the mistress of the Dong family. Dong Hai stretched out a hand towards the sky, signaling to Mrs. Dong. Madame Dong burst into tears, but kept shaking her head. The tenderness on Dong Hai's face gradually disappeared, and was slowly replaced by coldness. Finally, he put down his outstretched hand and said calmly, "The foolish woman Shi Tianhe, since she married into Dong's family, she has not had a baby for 100 years. It is a great crime to have no offspring. At the same time, I love vanity, compare myself to nature, corrupt the Dong family's style, and have no shame in stealing the treasures of the Dong family. I am shameless. Today, I, Dong Hai, as the head of the Dong family, hereby announce that Shi Tianhe will be expelled from the Dong family. From now on, the relationship between husband and wife will be severed, and there will be no relationship." With a word, the audience was in an uproar. Especially those local warriors in Taiping City, all of them stared wide-eyed with disbelief on their faces. Although they haven't seen this Mrs. Dong very much, there are many rumors in the market that this Mrs. Dong is a good person, kind-hearted and compassionate, and she tries to help the poor in the city. He has become a shameless and vain person. But the rumors are rumors after all. If her own husband has said so, how can it be false? Moreover, she actually stole the treasure of the Dong family. This is beyond the description of bad character, it is simply moral corruption. For a moment, everyone sighed unceasingly, wondering why the wife of the head of the Dong family was living a good life, but why did she do such a thing? No wonder all the elders of the Dong family were mobilized together. If it were any man, he might not be able to bear such a woman as his wife, right? PFF'd. There was a soft sound, and Shi Tianhe, who was standing in midair, suddenly spurted out a mouthful of bright red blood. His face was flushed, and the blood wet the front of his clothes, dazzling. She staggered slightly and clutched her chest, as if she was enduring the pain of 10,000 ants eating her heart. Looking at Dong Hai below, her brows were filled with despair. She never thought that Dong Hai was really so heartless. A one-night couple, 100 days of grace, she and Dong Hai have been married for 100 years. Back then, she did not hesitate to offend her master, was expelled from the sect, and vowed to be with Dong Hai to the death. Although she got her wish in the end, she had not been back to that sect for 100 years, and never seen again. She has been staying at Dong's house and by Dong Hai's side. She thought that she had found Mr. Right in her life, but unexpectedly, she was stabbed in the heart by him. She regarded this as the sky, the earth, and the only man in this life, and stabbed him hard. Master, this matter doesn't seem to be that simple. Ji Yao waited and watched for a while, then suddenly said softly to Yang Kai. Yang Kai curled his lips and said, "Why do you care so much about other people's affairs?" Even though he said that, his heart was filled with embarrassment. Shi Tianhe's despairing eyes seemed to be covered with a thick layer of dark clouds, unable to see the slightest light, obviously already extremely distressed. After a pause, Yang Kai said, "Yaoer, do you want to help her?" Ji Yao said, "Listen to master." Hey, Yang Kai couldn't help but sighed, although he didn't want to intervene in today's affairs, but the people of the Dong family obviously did a little too much, especially Dong Hai. The husband and wife have lived together for 100 years, who doesn't know who else? Even if there is a little friction, it's enough for everyone to sit down and talk about it. As for expelling him from the Dong family in such a large public, is he still divorced? This makes people how to behave in the future. This man has nothing to do. Shi Tianhe is also blind to follow such a man. Ha 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 ha. In the sky, Shi Tianhe suddenly laughed like crazy, the blood was still flowing from the corner of his mouth, it was shocking to watch. The laughter was full of bitterness, which made everyone's hearts tremble. Dong Hai, Shi Tianhe suddenly shouted coquettishly, for the sake of the Dong family, you will not hesitate to do this, you, the head of the family, are really competent. It's useless to talk more. Dong Hai didn't want to continue entanglement, there were so many warriors onlookers, if he continued like this, it would still lose the face of the Dong family and him. He lightly waved his hand and said, "Elders, let's do it." Quote. When the elders heard the words, their expressions sank, and they said in their mouths, offended. When the words fell, they all urged Yuanli to rush towards Shi Tianhe. Zheng, a sword sound rang out, and Shi Tianhe suddenly had an icy long sword in his hand. As soon as the long sword was released, the temperature around him dropped sharply, and an icy mood suddenly permeated. When the sword light flickered, large flakes of snow suddenly fell from the sky, covering the elders of the Dong family. Pieces of snowflakes, like sharp weapons for murder, made the faces of the elders of the Dong family change drastically. Dare to take the lead lightly. Snowing. No, this is someone's secret technique, this is the ice-type secret technique. This Mrs. Dong is so powerful. A group of people shouted in surprise. Over there, when Dong Hai saw Shi Tianhe's move, his complexion suddenly sank, and he shouted in a panic, "Fool, do you still want to resist?" But Commander Yu frowned and said, "Patriarch Dong, Mrs. Madam. Well, why does this woman's move feel a bit like the secret technique of Bingxin Valley?" Dong Haichang laughed and said, "Commander Yu was joking, this foolish woman has practiced ice-type exercises since she was a child, and she has mastered some powerful secret arts, but it has nothing to do with Bingxin Valley." Listening to the meaning in his words, it seems that once the relationship with Bingxin Valley is involved, disaster will be imminent. Commander Yu did not doubt that he was there, nodded slightly and said, That would be the best. You also know the current situation of Bingxin Valley. If this woman is really a disciple of Bingxin Valley, then your Dong family will be finished. Cold sweat suddenly broke out on Dong Hai's forehead, and he said with a dry smile, "She is her, and now she has nothing to do with my Dong family. The snow is as clear as the sky." Ji Yao suddenly yelled softly, her eyebrows frowned, and she stared at Shi Tianhe in the sky who was struggling to move. As Bingyan's third disciple, Ji Yao is very familiar with the various secret arts of Bingxin Valley. As soon as Shi Tianhe's sword moves out, she recognizes that this is Shui Ruoqingtian of Bingxin Valley. Only Bingxin Valley disciples can practice it. The secret technique, and it must be a core disciple. In the sky, Shi Tianhe evaded the elders of Dong's elders with one move, and when he was about to escape, those elders stuck to him like a dog's skin plaster, so Shi Tianhe had to turn his long sword again and stab out blossoming sword flowers. The sword flower is like a pear flower, blooming in midair, beautiful, but it contains an indescribable murderous intent. Shi Tianhe's body shuttles among these pear flowers, flickering, waiting for an opportunity to escape. Ice Sydney foil sword, Ji Yao shouted again. If she was not sure that Shi Tianhe was a disciple of Bingxin Valley when she recognized Shui Ruoqing's secret technique, now she is completely sure. If it wasn't a Bingxin Valley disciple, how could it be possible to master these two secret techniques? She was very surprised. She didn't expect that she had just returned to the Northern Territory, and hadn't arrived at the Zongmen, and unexpectedly met a disciple of Bingxin Valley in this typing city. But at this moment, an elder Dong tried his best to break through Shi Tianhe's sword move, which attracted her attention, while another elder came up behind Shi Tianhe and slapped her on the back. Although Shi Tianhe's strength is good, but after all, 2 fists can't beat 4 hands, and he was beaten to the limit within 3 or 2 moves. Although he sensed the strength coming from behind, he was powerless, and he was very anxious for a while. Die. At this moment, a soft shout came out suddenly, and everyone felt a blur in front of their eyes. Behind Shi Tianhe, a woman with a beautiful face and a cold expression suddenly appeared. The elders of the Dong family in the lair exploded into a cloud of blood mist. She is Bingyan's third disciple, and her seniority is extremely high in the sect. Now someone is bullying Bingxingu's disciples in front of her, and moreover bullies the less. The old man was killed. She reached out to fish again, and brought Shi Tianhe over, protecting her behind her back, and slapped forward one after another with her jade palms. Boom boom boom. There was a burst of explosions, and several clusters of blood mist exploded in the sky. Without exception, the Dong elders who besieged Shi Tianhe all exploded into blood mist, with no bones left and no power to fight back. Emperor Prestige Realm. An exclamation came out, and everyone was in an uproar. It turned out that Shi Tianhe was in a dangerous situation, and the onlookers thought she was doomed this time, but they didn't want to suddenly jump out of a beautiful, cold-tempered emperor, and killed all the elders of the Dong family with 1 palm, 2 palms, and 3 palms. Let the situation turn sharply. To be continued. Chapter 2624 Abandoned Ice Heart Valley. Dong Hai's face turned pale, and he almost collapsed on the ground. This time, in order to arrest Shi Tianhe, all the elders of the Daoyuan third layer of the Dong family were mobilized. After all, the matter is of great importance and nothing can be lost. I thought it was a safe arrangement, but I don't want to be taken over by others now. With the Dong family losing so much high-end combat power at once, the family power will definitely plummet, and it is not impossible for the Dong family to be annexed by several other big families in the city. Dong Hai could hardly accept this reality, and his head was stunned. Commander Yu was also shocked. As the commander of the guards of Taiping City, he didn't know when there would be an extra emperor senior stage in the city. This would be a serious crime of dereliction of duty. Moreover, the pressure Ji Yao put on him was even greater than that given to him by the city lord. In other words, this cold woman is more powerful than the city chief. A powerhouse above the second level of Emperor Zun. Commander Yu was also dripping with cold sweat. At that corner, Bai Lu and Yan Shuiman saw what happened before, and they were terrified. They thought that among Yang Kai and Ji Yao, only Yang Kai, who is a master, was in the Emperor Senior realm, but now they knew that this Ji Yao was also a strong Emperor Senior realm. Yesterday Yan Shuiman actually wanted to buy someone else's building boat. Now think about it, he was merciful yesterday, otherwise, what life would there be for the two of them? The commander of Taiping City, Yu Zhen, has met your excellency before, but I don't know his name and name. Commander Yu ran out in small steps while wiping his cold sweat, and asked Ji Yao with his fists clasped, his face full of respect. He didn't dare to act presumptuously in front of someone who was suspected to be a strong person at the second level of the Emperor Senior realm. After all, the city lord is only at the Emperor Senior level. If this strong man really gets angry and starts killing, then this typing city will be over. Ji Yao didn't seem to hear Yu Zhen's words, but turned her head and frowned at Shi Tianhe. Shi Tianhe was also stunned. Holding the long sword in his hand, he turned his head and looked around, only to see that none of the Dong parents who made things difficult for him before were dead. Senior. Shi Tianhe looked moved, looked at Ji Yao, and thanked Ji Yao, "Thank you, Senior, for your help." She also thought that she was doomed to die before, but she didn't know that at this critical moment, she could get help from a nobleman, turning danger into good luck. The gratitude in Shi Tianhe's heart was beyond words. "Are you a Bingxin Valley disciple?" Ji Yao asked with a frown. As soon as this remark came out, it seemed that a huge boulder fell on the calm lake, causing an uproar. "What? Mistress Dong is a disciple of Bingxin Valley? It's true. No way. If that's the case, wouldn't the Dong family be finished?" No wonder Patriarch Dong did not hesitate to drive his wife out of the Dong family and sever ties with her. It turns out that she is a disciple of Bingxin Valley. Patriarch Dong is so courageous. As a human being, I would be reluctant to drive this beautiful lady out of the house. The discussion of the crowd spread, causing Ji Yao and Yang Kai to frown, not knowing what was going on. Hearing Ji Yao's question, Shi Tianhe smiled wryly. "I dare not call myself a disciple of Bingxin Valley. Tianhe was expelled from the sect by Master 100 years ago." "Expelled from the teacher's school? What mistake did you make?" Ji Yao asked after being startled. A Bingxin Valley disciple, if he hadn't committed any serious mistakes, it would be impossible for him to be expelled from the sect. With a bitter face, Shi Tianhe glanced at Dong Hai who was standing below. Ji Yao understood, and snorted coldly, "So it's because of a man. You are really blind, you will follow him even if you are expelled from the sect, so what now? He expelled you from the Dong family again." As soon as this remark came out, Shi Tianhe's eyes turned red again. He was undoubtedly poked into a heartache, and he was speechless for a while. "It's over, it's over." Dong Hai heard the conversation between Ji Yao and Shi Tianhe. His expression seemed to be much older all of a sudden, and his figure was precarious. He knew that the Dong family was really over this time. Not to mention that the elders suffered heavy losses and the power of the family plummeted. Even if the relationship between Shi Tianhe and Bing Xinggu was found out, it would be enough to destroy the Dong family. After today, there will be no place for the Dong family in Taiping City. Even if the big families in the city do not deal with the Dong family, the city lord will not tolerate the Dong family. Even though Shi Tianhe had been expelled from Bingxin Valley 100 years ago, she was a disciple of Bingxin Valley after all, and now in the entire Northern Territory, anyone who has the slightest relationship with Bingxin Valley has never had a good end. "It's actually from Bingxin Valley." Yang Kai also showed surprise on his face. Earlier, he overheard the conversation between Commander Yu and Dong Hai. Commander Yu said that Mrs. Dong was from a great sect, and he didn't care about it. Only now did he know that this sect was actually Bingxin Valley. In the Northern Territory, Bingxin Valley is indeed considered a top-notch power. It is a great honor for the Dong family to marry a disciple from the valley to a small Dong family in Taiping City. "Whose disciple are you?" Ji Yao asked again. Shi Tianhe said softly. "Back to the seniors, the junior master's surname is En, and his name is Tabu Ruian." "Are you a disciple of Master Sister?" Ji Yao was shocked. En Ruian, a powerhouse at the second level of Emperor Senior, ranks the highest among the disciples under Bing Yun's seat, and is the senior sister of many seniors. During the years when Bing Yun disappeared, it was also En Ruian who took over Bingxin Valley, propping up the whole world of Bingxin Valley. It can be said that the name En Ruian is known to almost all warriors in the Northern Territory. So when Shi Tianhe said that his master was En Ruian, the audience was in an uproar. No one thought that the former mistress of the Dong family would have such a big background. Looking at Dong Hai again, he couldn't help but become a lot more complicated. En Ruian's disciple, marrying him as his wife, what is Dong Hai's virtue and ability? It's a pity that this glory in the past has now become a reminder for the Dong family. "Elder sister." Shi Tianhe was also stunned, looking at Ji Yao foolishly and said, "Senior is." This person called her master senior sister, so she was obviously from Bingxin Valley, and the faces of those masters and uncles in Bingxin Valley flashed in her mind, but none of them could match the person in front of her, so she couldn't help but feel suspicious. "I'm your third uncle," Ji Yao said lightly. Shi Tianhei's eyes lit up when he heard it, and he lost his voice. "You are Uncle Ji Yao." When she was in Bingxin Valley, Ji Yao had already disappeared. It is normal for her not to have seen Ji Yao, but during those days in the valley, she also heard her master mention this long-lost uncle. The uncles who are still in the valley are concerned about her safety, but it is a pity that no one knows where she is. Bing Xingyu also sent people out to search for it many times, but there has been no news. I never thought that in this typing city today, I would actually be bumped into by myself. For a while, Shi Tianhei couldn't help being overjoyed, and the sadness in his heart was diluted a lot because of seeing Ji Yao. He quickly knelt down in front of Ji Yao, and said, "Shi Tianhei, the abandoned disciple of Bingxin Valley, met the third uncle. Get up." Ji Yao stretched out her hand and lifted Shi Tianhei up, and snorted coldly, "As a disciple of a senior sister, I actually disobeyed her for a man. If I were a senior sister, I would just kill you. How can you still live to this day?" Shi Tianhei smiled wryly and remained silent. Ji Yao said, "However, senior sister will not die around you, and it is inconvenient for me to do it for you. Since you have been expelled from the Dong family today, you are no longer a member of his Dong family. Follow me back to Bingxin Valley to ask senior sister for your sins. Death is all in the mind of the elder sister." Shi Tianhei burst into tears and said, "Thank you, third uncle." Ji Yao turned her head, looked coldly at the distraught Dong Hai below, and said, "Although Tianhei is an abandoned disciple of my Bingxin Valley, but not everyone can bully her. She abandoned her master and followed you. Treat her well, that's all, but now you have abandoned her all the time, you don't regret dying." While speaking, he lightly patted down with his palm. "Don't." Shi Tianhei turned pale with shock, and stood in front of Ji Yao in a flash, knelt down on the ground and begged, "Uncle Third, don't kill him. Please don't kill him." In Ji Yao's palm, the Emperor Yuan surged, stored but not released, staring at Shi Tianhei, said angrily, "At this time, you still want to protect him?" Shi Tianhei shook his head, cried and said, "He saved my life back then, but now I ask my third uncle to keep him alive, and I will give him my life as a disciple, so I will settle all grievances with him and have no more contact with him." Ji Yao was furious, wishing to slap the blind nephew in front of her to death with one palm. The Emperor Yuan surged in the palm of her hand several times, but in the end she was still reluctant to strike. After all, Shi Tianhei's fate was rough enough. In desperation, Ji Yao could only turn her head, looked at Yang Kai and said, "Master, what do you mean?" Yang Kai said lightly, "Death crimes can be avoided, but living crimes cannot escape." While speaking, he had already come in front of Dong Hai, and slapped him on the chest. Before Dong Hai could react at all, he was sent flying out, directly hit a building not far away, and passed out. Since Yang Kai had made a move, Ji Yao naturally didn't have any objections, and immediately scattered Emperor Yuan. "Let's go." Yang Kai waved his hand and flew into the air first. Ji Yao hurriedly followed. Shi Tianhei glanced back at Dong Hai who had passed out on the ground, and finally turned his head, and quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. Until this moment, many martial artists at the city gate secretly exhaled. There is an Emperor Senior realm here, and they dare not even take a breath, lest the image will be wrong, and the strong man will be unhappy. She is actually from Bingxin Valley. At the corner, Bai Lu seemed to have discovered some shocking secret treasure. His expression was extremely excited. He thought about it for a while, and then suddenly said, "Yuewen, go and tell your father that there is Emperor Senior realm in Bingxin Valley come to Taiping City, and just left. Let him quickly count the number of people to chase after him. Remember, tell him not to startle the snake, just follow." "What about you?" Yan Yuewen looked at him and asked. "I want to go back to Xuanlei Pavilion and tell my father what happened here. I believe that father should be very interested in that woman." As he spoke, he already rushed towards the space magic circle in Taiping City in a flash. Through the space magic circle, he could go back to Xuanlei Pavilion directly, so it didn't take much time to tell himself the news here. "Father. The people of Bingxin Valley dare to come out and jump around, and now there is hope for revenge." Bai Lu sneered in his heart, thinking of the scene where his father took down the man and woman. He was secretly pleased. Open HoloLens bracket to be continued. Close HoloLens bracket. Chapter 2625 Bingxin Valley is in danger. High-speed full-text online reading. In the sky, a group of 3 people flew forward. Shu is because she hates iron but not steel. Ji Yao looked at Shi Tianhe from time to time with extremely annoyed eyes, and Shi Tianhe had undergone a major change at the beginning. Although he saved his life, he was also devastated and depressed. Life has nothing to love. Master, you should have killed that man who was in chaos and abandoned before, why did you spare his life? After flying for half a day, Ji Yao finally couldn't help but speak, and when she spoke, she was full of murderous intent, obviously still thinking about Dong Hai's injury and not dying. Yang Kai shook his head and said nothing. Master, Shi Tianhe was startled when he heard the words, looked at Yang Kai in astonishment, then clasped his fists and said, Tianhe has seen this senior before, but I don't know how to call him. She has been wandering away, until now she suddenly thought of asking Yang Kai's identity. Moreover, Shi Tianhe also felt strange when he heard the third uncle address him. Third master uncle is Bingshin Valley's disciple, shouldn't her master be Bingshin Valley's founding patriarch? How could you call a man Shizen? Why are seniors not seniors? This is the patriarch. You are really blind. Ji Yao gritted her teeth and said in her heart that she was expelled from the school by the senior sister for a man, and now the patriarch is right in front of her. Can't even recognize it. That's not what being blind is. How could the elder sister accept such a disciple? Patriarch. Shi Tianhe was startled, staring at Yang Kai with wide eyes, not knowing what kind of patriarch he was. Yang Kai quietly said, Tianhe, your third uncle seems to have been stimulated by something in the past few years, and there is something wrong with his head, and he mistook me for Senior Bingyan. Crazy, this time she is going to be sent back to Bingshin Valley, and she will understand when she meets Senior Bingyan. You should also put on a show now, don't show any flaws. Shi Tianhe was shocked when he heard this. Never thought that this seemingly normal third uncle of mine would have something wrong with his head. Mistaking a man for a patriarch is not a small problem. She is also smart, so she quickly sorted out her mood. He bowed respectfully and said, my disciple's eyes are clumsy, so don't blame the patriarch. Humph. Ji Yao snorted coldly, as if she didn't want to see her. Shi Tianhe smiled wryly, but soon his expression changed, and he said, Patriarch, you and the third uncle just returned to the Northern Territory, right? Yang Kai wondered, how do you know? Shi Tianhe said, then you don't know anything about the sect. Ji Yao frowned and said, what happened to the sect? Shi Tianhe said with a pale face, the sect is besieged. In the Northern Territory, many seniors and sisters who married out were brutally murdered, and the sect's foundation outside the sect was also completely destroyed. Now Bingshin Valley is more besieged by people, in danger. What? When Yang Kai and Ji Yao heard the words, their faces changed drastically. Ji Yao said angrily, who did it? Ask the emotional sect. A gleam of hatred flashed in Shi Tianhe's eyes. Ask Qingzong. Ji Yao's pretty face sank, and she shouted angrily, you are so brave, why did they do this to me, Bingshin Valley? Yang Kai frowned, and suddenly realized that this matter may have something to do with him. Thinking of this, he said, Tianhe, tell me the whole story carefully. We really didn't know that there was such a change in the sect. Yes. Shi Tianhe said briefly about what happened in the Northern Territory in the past few years. A few years ago, when the grand event in the Star Realm opened, Feng Zan, the lord of Wenqing sect, suddenly brought people to Bingshin Valley. In the conflict, the powerhouses of the two sides fought a battle outside Bingshin Valley, and both sides suffered losses in the end. Since then, Bingxingwu and Wenqingzong have been on fire. Over time, the grievances between the two factions are also getting bigger and deeper, and many disciples of Bingshin Valley who married out were found out by people from the Wenqing sect. Brutal killings, some of Bingshin Valley's outside foundations were also destroyed, and those forces related to Bingshin Valley were also suppressed and persecuted. Half a year ago, under the leadership of the suzerain Feng Zan, countless experts from Wenqing sect seized Binglan City and sealed off the surrounding area of Bingshin Valley. The posture of destroying Bingshin Valley in one fell swoop. Ice Wheel City is the closest city to Bingshin Valley, and it is also the foundation of Bingshin Valley since its opening. It is an important hub to connect Ice Heart Valley with the outside world. Now that even Ice Wheel City is occupied, it can be seen that Bingshin Valley is in a difficult situation. Today, half a year has passed. Fortunately, Bingshin Valley has a large array of guardians, so it can stick to it until today. Qingqing sect and Bingshin Valley are both first-class sects in the Northern Territory, and their strengths are almost the same. If there is no unresolved grievances, the two parties would not be able to fight. Tianhe, do you know the reason? Yang Kai said with a sullen face. Asked. Shi Tianhe said. In the beginning, everyone didn't know about it, and then gradually rumors spread. The reason why Wen Qingzong was so decisive was because Feng Zan's son, Feng Qi, was killed in the Sea of Broken Stars. Ji Yao sneered and said, the skills are not as good as others, so if you kill him, you will kill him. Could it be that the one who killed Feng Qi was my Bingxin Valley disciple? Shi Tianhe shook his head and said, this is not true, it is said that it is a man named Yang Kai. And that Yang Kai has a close relationship with the patriarch. Feng Zan wants to find Yang Kai's traces and origins, so he can only work hard from the patriarch. Unfortunately, the patriarch, not to mention, Feng Zan, became angry from embarrassment, and he did not hesitate to set off 2 great wars, and also wanted to avenge his son. Yang Kai. Ji Yao frowned, vaguely feeling that the name sounded familiar. Yang Kai saw that her expression was wrong, wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, and quickly changed the topic. Although Wen Qingzong is good, but Feng Zan is only at the 3rd level of Emperor Senior, how can I force Bingxin Valley like this? Shi Tianhe shook his head and said, I don't know the specific situation, the disciple only knows that the master's school is in danger now. Yang Kai's eyes flickered, and he suddenly said, you want to leave Dong's family, leave Taiping City, just want to go back to the teacher's door and do your part. Shi Tianhe replied bitterly, yes. Although the disciple was expelled from the sect by the master, he is still a disciple of Bingxin Valley in the final analysis. Now that the sect is in trouble, how can the disciple stand by and watch? It's just that the Dong family doesn't want to let me go, because once I expose myself as a disciple of Bingxin Valley, it is bound to implicate the Dong family, and now in the entire northern territory, no one dares to have anything to do with Bingxin Valley. Ji Yao stared at her blankly, then nodded, it's no wonder you have such a heart. Previously, she hated iron but not steel, and felt that Shi Tianhe, a nephew, was hopeless. He was expelled from the sect because of a man, and he was expelled from the family by that man 100 years later. He had a pair of eyes in vain. But now it seems that her nephew has some merits. At least when the sect is in trouble, she will think of going back and doing her part. Knowing that there is a current situation of fire and water over there, if you are not careful, you will be wiped out, but you still go back without hesitation, this is not something everyone can do. Shi Tianhe shook his head and said, the teacher raised me and taught me. Tianhe was born as a person of Bingxin Valley, and died as a ghost of Bingxin Valley. Ji Yao nodded and said, okay, with your determination, eldest sister will definitely accept you into the entrance wall again. Really? Shi Tianhe looked at Ji Yao in surprise. Ji Yao showed a rare smile. Don't worry, if she doesn't accept me, I won't recognize her as a senior sister. Shi Tianhe was taken aback, and hurriedly said, don't dare, third uncle, stop joking. Master, the sect is in trouble now, we have to go back quickly, the elder sister can't support it alone. Ji Yao turned her head and looked at Yang Kai. Yang Kai nodded and said, well, but we have to deal with the tail at the back, it seems that someone is watching us. Huh. Ji Yao heard the words, and immediately turned her head to look back, only to see a small black spot on the edge of the sky rushing towards this side, obviously aimed at herself and others. Shi Tianhe's face changed, and he said, it's broken, it must be that we exposed our identities in Taiping City before and attracted the attention of interested people. Tianhe, do you know who is here? Yang Kai turned around and asked lightly. Shi Tianhe frowned, and said, if the disciple guessed correctly, the person who came should be from the Xuanlei Pavilion. Xuanlei Pavilion. Yang Kai raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a playful smile. Shi Tianhe said, Taiping City and Xuanlei Pavilion are closely related, and they are connected by a space circle, so it is convenient to come and go, and Xuanlei Pavilion is now attached to Wenqing sect. We have exposed our identities, and Xuanlei Pavilion will definitely not those who sit back and do nothing must want to capture us and ask Qingzong for credit. Then it depends on whether they have this ability. Yang Kai sneered, what is the master of the Xuanlei Pavilion? The master of the Xuanlei Pavilion, Bai Yu, has the cultivation level of the 2nd level of Emperor Senior. Shi Tianhe's pretty face was serious, they also have 4 elders of the 1st level of Emperor Senior, plus the words of Yan Dong, the owner of Taiping City, that is the 5 emperors have reached the 1st level. Uncle, let's take a step first. What are you going to do? It's rare that it's delivered to your door. Ji Yao glared at her. Shi Tianhe was stunned, not knowing how the third master uncle had such great confidence. Remembering that the third master uncle still had some problems with his head, he quickly turned to look at Yang Kai, asking for his opinion. Yang Kai smiled and said, "Don't worry. It's just a few clowns." The jumping clown. Shi Tianhe was speechless. 1 Emperor Senior Level 2, 5 Emperor Senior Level 1 level, how could he become a jumping beam clown? This man won't be the same as the third uncle, his head is broken, right? She was thinking wildly and anxiously, but she saw that both Yang Kai and Ji Yao's faces were calm and infected, and their hearts gradually calmed down. From the moment she planned to leave the Dong family and return to the division to do her best, she never thought that she would survive. Maybe, I have no way to return to the sect and I will be killed. After all, Bingxin Valley is completely surrounded now. As long as she shows up, she will definitely be attacked. Now that she has put life and death aside, what else in this world can scare her? Her only thought is to return to her master's door before she dies, and get his understanding and forgiveness. To be continued. Chapter 2626 Don't be afraid, let's go together. Chapter 2626 Don't be afraid, let's go together. It's December, and at the beginning of the month, it's customary to ask for a guaranteed monthly pass. Tianhe, stand behind your patriarch. Ji Yao said lightly. Yes, Shi Tianhe didn't say much, and quickly hid behind Yang Kai, a fake patriarch. At this moment, the group of people chasing after them has been clearly discernible, and the fluctuations of Emperor Yuan have also been clearly transmitted, which is somewhat different from Shi Tianhe's guess. The leader is indeed a second-level emperor, and it should be the owner of the Xuanlei Pavilion. Bai Yu just followed him instead of 5 first-level emperors, but only 4, 1 less in number. Yang Kai thought about it again. Yesterday there was a guy named Yan Qing who followed the Xuanlei Pavilion young master Bai Lu, and his arm was crippled by his palm. Then Yan Qing should also be the elder of Xuanlei Pavilion. It is estimated that at this moment I was recovering and couldn't come. If so, the Emperor Senior stage of Xuanlei Pavilion can be regarded as exhausted this time, which shows that they attach great importance to Yang Kai and Ji Yao. Swipe. Accompanied by gusts of wind, the 5 figures stopped several tens of meters away from Yang Kai and Ji Yao. The first person, with a white face and no beard, looks somewhat similar to Bai Lu, so it should be Bai Yu, the master of the Xuanlei Pavilion. The 4 people in the back, 2 middle-aged men, and 2.5 old men, all had indifferent faces. Their expressions were not angry and majestic, and their eyes were staring at this side. Shi Tianhe sent a voice transmission to Yang Kai. The one standing on the far left is Yan Dong, the lord of Taiping City, and the remaining 3 are the elders of Xuanlei Pavilion. You and the third uncle should be careful, senior. Yang Kai nodded slightly. Are you Ji Yao, the third disciple of Bingyan? Not far away, the leader Bai Yu suddenly shouted. He could recognize Ji Yao not because he knew him, but before the gate of Taiping City, Shi Tianhe once called Ji Yao master uncle, which was naturally heard. Presumptuous, you can call me the name of master. Ji Yao gritted her teeth and shouted with anger. Ha 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 ha. Bai Yu laughed loudly and teased. Bingyan herself hides in Bingxin Valley and dare not come out, acting like a man with her tail between her legs. You disciple has a lot of temper, and I don't know where you got the courage to dare to come out. Run wild in the Northern Territory. The 4 people behind him also laughed and had fun, as if they were convinced of Yang Kai and Ji Yao. It's no wonder they were so confident. After all, Bai Yu had a cultivation level at the 2nd level of Emperor Senior. And in Bingxin Valley, the eldest disciple in Ruian and the 2nd disciple Sun Yunshou are both at the 2nd level of Emperor Senior realm. As the 3rd disciple, Ji Yao is remarkable because of this level of cultivation, comparable to Bai Yu. Bai Yu really isn't afraid of her if they really want to fight, not to mention he has 4 helpers at the 1st level of Emperor Senior. As long as Yang Kai is dealt with first, the rest of them will besiege Ji Yao together. Forgive her what waves. Master, I'm going to tear his mouth and tear him into pieces. Ji Yao's chest heaved in anger, really angry. Well, let's go. Leave the rest to me. Yang Kai nodded. Ji Yao got the order, and with a sway of her delicate body, she jumped directly on top of Bai Yu's head. While Shui Han's long sword was shaking, the sword blossomed towards Bai Yu. Bitch made is rampant. Bai Yu yelled, stretched out his hand to hold it in the void, and a long spear appeared in the palm of his hand, urging Di Yuan to shoot it out. The sword flower immediately collapsed, and the long spear circled towards him. Ji Yao swept away, but Ji Yao's expression did not change. With a sweep of the long sword, a sword light cut towards Bai Yu. The two of them fought together in an instant, the Emperor Yuan surged, the laws collided, and the fight was in full swing. While fighting Ji Yao, Bai Yu said, "Go and kill those two before helping me." Yes. Yan Dong, the city lord of Taiping City, and the other 3 elders of Xuanlei Pavilion got the order, and immediately took action, pointing at their feet, and the 4 scattered around, surrounding Yang Kai and Shi Tianhe. "Mrs. Dong," Yan Dong looked at Shi Tianhe coldly, and said, "This city master really didn't expect that you are a disciple of Bingxin Valley. It's hard for you to hide this from my city master." Shi Tianhe gritted his teeth and said, "I was expelled from Bingxin Valley 100 years ago, and I am not considered a disciple of Bingxin Valley now." Yan Dong chuckled, and said, "Anyway, you used to be from Bingxin Valley after all. I heard that you were still that Enruian's disciple." "So what?" Yan Dong sighed, and said, "Back then, when the city lord was traveling abroad, he also met a disciple of Bingxin Valley. It's a pity that Luo Hua intends to be ruthless, but that woman looks down on my city lord, making this city lord feel sorry, and I still sigh when I think about it." City Master Yan still has this romantic affair. An elder of the Xuanlei Pavilion next to him couldn't help laughing. "I've never heard of it." "That's right, if that woman had accepted City Lord Yan back then, I'm afraid she would be implicated by her today. Fortunately, City Lord Yan has a good fortune." Another Xuanlei Pavilion elder also laughed. Yan Dong waved his hand and said, "It's been a long time ago, you guys don't want to laugh at Yan, but even though it's been many years, the city lord still remembers that the woman's name is Yudan. I wonder if Mrs. Dong can recognize her." "Senior Sister Yudan," Shi Tianhe was startled, and said, "You actually know Senior Sister Yudan?" Judging by her expression, she obviously knew Yudan. Yan Dong laughed and said, "You are both under Enruian's sect, you really know each other, good, good." He kept nodding while talking, and the gleam in his eyes gradually became dangerous. The Xuanlei Pavilion elder who hadn't opened his mouth looked at him thoughtfully, and said, "City Master Yan, don't you want to make up for the regrets that happened back then?" Yan Dong smiled and said, "Why not?" Several people were startled when they heard this. The elder of Xuanlei Pavilion said, "City Master Yan is really elegant, this Mrs. Dong, but she has been married for many years. Yan Mo likes a beautiful woman, not to mention, she and Niu Dan are senior sisters. Since Yan can't get a senior sister, it's not bad to have a junior sister for fun. The elders will do it later. When you are in love, you should be more compassionate and cherish the jade, and don't hurt her." The elders of Xuanlei Pavilion didn't know what to say, but they all knew that what happened back then had formed a knot in Yan Dong's heart. If they could capture Shi Tianhe today, the knot would be resolved. They all nodded and said, "Since City Lord Yan said so, I will naturally give you some face." Yan Dong laughed and said, "Then thank you first." Shi Tianhe blushed and said angrily, "Yan Dong, I didn't expect you to be so despicable and shameless. In vain, Dong Hai has always followed your lead and listened to your orders all these years." "Dong Hai," Yan Dong snorted coldly, "why is that dead man mentioning him?" "Don't worry, he doesn't love you, this city lord will love you well in the future." "Dead people." Shi Tianhe's pretty face turned pale, and he said in surprise, "What did you do to him?" Yan Dong sneered and said, "As the patriarch of the Dong family, what do you think will happen to him if he marries a disciple of Bingxin Valley? Now he has been torn into pieces by the owner of the city, and the Dong family no longer exists." Shi Tianhe's tender body trembled, and he was stunned. Although he knew for a long time that after his identity was exposed, the Dong family would not end well, but he still couldn't accept the news when he really heard the news. "That's the man I've been married to for 100 years, the man I wanted to follow even when I left my teacher's school, but now, he's dead if he says he dies. I'll kill you bastard." Shi Tianhe's eyes turned red, and with the long sword in his hand, his whole body exploded with all his strength, and he was about to kill Yan Dong. But before she could move, she felt someone slapped her on the shoulder, and she froze in place, unable to move. If it wasn't for Yongkai Emperor Yuan to envelop her, she might have fallen down immediately. Yan Dong looked at Yongkai with cold eyes, and snorted, "Young boy, you still have time to take care of other people's affairs when you are about to die." Yongkai grinned and said, "Are you so confident that you can kill me?" While talking, he pulled Shi Tianhe behind him and stood up. He looked confident, but it made Yan Dong and the others frown slightly, wondering where he got the confidence. They knew Ji Yao's identity, but they didn't know who this man was and what kind of strength he had, so they couldn't help being a little jealous for a while. Who is your excellency? Now in the Northern Territory, everyone in Bingxin Valley is shouting and beating, and it will be destroyed in a short time. If you are a smart person, you shouldn't come to mix with this muddy water. Yan Dong said with a cold face looking at Yang Kai. That's right, if your excellency can turn back when you are lost, you may not be able to be friends. An elder of Xuanlei Pavilion also nodded. Friends like you, this young master can't afford to climb high. Yang Kai grinned, it's better for everyone to see the truth. What are you still dawdling about? Get rid of that person quickly. At this moment, Bai Yu's angry shout suddenly came from over there. Several people quickly turned their heads to look, and couldn't help but change their expressions, because they found that Bai Yu, who was also at the second level of Emperor Senior, had lost the wind in the battle. The space was filled, and Bai Yu was struggling to resist Ji Yao's attack, her face was slightly pale. Seeing him like that, he couldn't hold on for much longer. Several people were taken aback, realizing that they had underestimated Ji Yao's strength. Although she is also at the second level of Emperor Senior, her second level is much stronger than Bai Yu. If you don't help, your pavilion master will be finished. Yang Kai smiled and looked at the few people, and at the same time his whole body was shocked, showing off his cultivation intentionally, and said, don't worry, this young man is not strong, he is just an emperor. It's just one level, don't be afraid, let's go up together. Emperor first level, sure enough, it's the Emperor Senior realm. Damn it, you dare to pretend to be a pig and eat a tiger at a mere first level to scare me. Yan Dong and the three Xuanlei Pavilion elders shouted one after another. They were afraid before, because they were afraid that Yang Kai's cultivation base would be higher than theirs, so they didn't dare to act rashly. They wanted to find out his strength first, but they didn't. Unexpectedly, this guy actually exposed himself. What's so scary about a first-level Emperor Senior? The four of them are all at the first level of Emperor Senior, even if one is not an opponent, wouldn't the four of them be opponents together? Do it, a Xuanlei Pavilion elder shouted sharply, and the next moment, the four of them rushed towards Yang Kai from all sides, the Emperor Yuan surged, and each of them used secret techniques to attack, the momentum was like a rainbow. To be continued. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update group at Biaoming Dong Kong Shui. Chapter 2627 Who are you? High-speed full-text online reading. The scene of four Emperor Senior realm rushing over at once was really scary. Shi Tianhe was held in place by Yang Kai, only to feel her body suddenly sank, as if mountains were suddenly pressed against her heart, making her unable to breathe. In the midst of horror, the attack by four people has arrived as promised. Boom boom boom. After a loud noise, Shi Tianhe's heart was almost frightened, and he thought he was going to die. But when he fixed his eyes again, he found strangely that he had appeared in another position at some point, and the attacks of those four people hadn't hurt him at all. Yang Kai stood in front of him, clapped his hands suddenly, and pulled them again. A huge black moonblade-like attack took shape leisurely, and there were shocking energy fluctuations in the pitch-black moonblade, like the scythe of death, waiting for the opportunity to harvest the lives of all living beings. With a whistling sound, the moonblade flew out and slashed straight at the four emperors. Not good. Yan Dong's complexion changed, and he shouted loudly. When he missed a move earlier, he realized that he and others had underestimated Yang Kai's strength. Although this young man was indeed at the Emperor Senior level, his speed was very strange. Invincible awe. When he turned around, he saw the huge moonblade roaring towards him, and Yan Dong was so frightened that he retreated quickly, and shouted loudly, "Several elders, hide quickly." He was quick at seeing the opportunity and was quick to dodge, but the three Xuanlei Pavilion elders were not so clever. The three of them were still thinking about what was going on in the scene before them. They didn't see any movement of Yang Kai at all. Why did he suddenly disappear? When I heard Yan Dong's reminder, the moon blade had already struck in front of me. The three elders of Xuanlei Pavilion shouted loudly, urging their own emperors, mobilizing the power of laws to resist. Chi 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 chi. The scene that made them utterly horrified appeared. Where the moon blade passed, it shattered and tore apart their Emperor Yuan and laws, and attacked and killed them like a broken bamboo. Puff! With a soft sound, the pitch-black moon blade cut across the body of the elder of Xuanlei Pavilion who stood in front of him, and slashed towards the second elder with unabated momentum. The second elder was not spared either. Also beheaded by the moon blade. It wasn't until the third middle-aged elder that he finally had a chance to tilt his body slightly, allowing the moon blade to cut out from his arm. Yan Dong's eyes widened for a moment, staring in horror at the two Xuanlei Pavilion elders whose bodies were cut by the moon blade. I dare not blink my eyes. With a crash, the two elders were suddenly split in two, and blood and internal organs were scattered from the midair. At the same time, there was a miserable cry. Shocked, Yan Dong hastily turned his head to look. The middle-aged elder of the third Xuanlei Pavilion had his arm cut off at the root, and blood gushed out from the wound like a fountain, and the beating heart in the chest cavity could be faintly seen from the incision, which was not lightly injured. Hiss! Yan Dong sucked in a breath of cold air, his clothes were instantly wet with sweat. He turned his head in horror, looked at Yang Kai in horror and said, "You, who the hell are you?" One move, just one move, instantly killed two Xuanlei Pavilion elders at the first level of Emperor Senior, and severely injured another person. Is this a fucking thing that the Emperor Senior realm can do? Is this fucking human? Yan Dong was really frightened. If it wasn't for Yang Kai's initiative to stimulate the power just now, revealing the cultivation base of Emperor Senior first level, I'm afraid he would still think that Yang Kai is a third level of Emperor Senior, pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. Shi Tianhe, who was standing behind Yang Kai, was also extremely surprised and couldn't help swallowing. At this moment, she suddenly found that the power that restrained her disappeared, and she regained her freedom. Yang Kai grinned and said, "You don't even know who I am and you come here to make trouble. It seems that City Lord Yan has never died before." Dead. Yan Dong narrowed his eyes, and glanced at the two dead Xuanlei Pavilion elders. He also looked at Bai Yu, who was struggling to hold on and seemed unable to hold on for much longer. As soon as he gritted his teeth, he turned his head and turned into a rainbow light, fleeing in a hurry. He didn't dare to stay any longer. The other party can kill two Emperor Senior realms who are comparable to his strength in an instant, and it is easy to take his life. If he stayed any longer, he might have to confess his life here. But in front of the other party's elusive speed, Yan Dong really doesn't have the confidence to escape. So while running, he looked back anxiously, only to see that Yang Kai was still standing there, and had no intention of chasing him. How fast is the Emperor Senior realm? In the blink of an eye, Yan Dong disappeared without a trace. Only then did Yan Dong gasp for breath, with a look of dread on his face, giving birth to a sense of gratitude for the rest of his life. He didn't know why the other party didn't chase after him, but since he was allowed to run, he would naturally not miss the opportunity. After flying forward for dozens of breaths, Yan Dong regained a little sense of security. No matter how fast the young man was, since there was no sign of chasing him until now, it meant that he was already safe. Before finishing this thought, Yan Dong suddenly paused and looked not far ahead with a solemn expression. I saw that in the void in front of me, it was as if a stone had been dropped on the calm lake surface, ripples rippled layer by layer, and then, from the very center of the ripples, a strange force emanated fluctuation. In a flash before his eyes, a ghostly figure appeared that almost made him want to fly away. Tang 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 tang. Yan Dong backed away in horror, staring at Yang Kai with a terrified expression. How could you? Speaking of this, he suddenly seemed to think of something, and said in a deep voice, "Space supernatural powers." He has heard that warriors who have mastered the supernatural powers of space can realize the magical means of space displacement by comprehending the laws of space to the limit. But that's just what I heard. How can space supernatural powers be mastered casually? That space power is extremely remote. Even if a person who has no chance spends his whole life in it, it is impossible to get involved in it. In the entire star realm, there is such a person who has profound attainments in space power and is known as the #1 person under the Emperor. That person is the famous Li Wuyi in the Eastern Spirit Beast Island. Yan Dong never expected that he would encounter an enemy who was proficient in space power, and his skills seemed to be not much worse than that of Li Wuyi. It turned out that he was not letting him escape, but was sure to stop him. With a magical method like spatial displacement, no matter how much he ran, he would not be able to escape the opponent's palm. City Lord Yan has good eyesight, Yang Kai said with a half-hearted smile. Yan Dong's complexion changed again, he gritted his teeth and shouted, "This City Lord will fight with you." He knew that he couldn't escape, and judging from the way the opponent had killed the elder of Xuanlei Pavilion before, even if he begged for mercy, he might not let him go. Now if you want to survive, you can only work hard with the other party. Yan Dong is also a decisive person. When the words fell, his whole body exploded with strength, a long knife suddenly appeared in his hand, he walked with the knife, the light of the knife soared to the sky, and he slashed towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai snorted coldly, raised his hand, and slapped it out. Under the surge of Emperor Yuan, the glaring blade glow instantly collapsed, and the palm of his hand landed on Yandong's chest. Puff! Yandong spat out blood, staggered and flew out, fell to the ground, smashing the ground into a deep pit. After struggling to climb out of the pit, Yandong stared at Yang Kai, who was slowly falling from the sky with trembling eyes, and hissed, "You are not at the first level of Emperor Senior, what kind of sacred are you?" At the first level of Emperor Zun, how could he be seriously injured with a light palm? How could it be possible to kill two and wound one of the three Xuanlei Pavilion elders at the first level of Emperor Zun in an instant? Yandong was almost certain that Yang Kai definitely hid his cultivation and deliberately teased them. It's ridiculous that a group of them all thought that Ji Yao was the most powerful, but in the end they ran into a hard stubble. Guess. Yang Kai blinked at him, and with the snap of his fingers, another dark moon blade appeared in his hand, but this moon blade was not as huge as before. Even so, sensing the power fluctuations contained in it also made Yandong's face ashamed. This is the means of condensing the space power. Under the blessing of the space law, he is powerless to resist. Wait, Yandong hastily yelled, since he couldn't fight against others, now he can only beg for mercy to survive. Yang Kai didn't intend to speak to him at all, and with a flick of his fingers, the moon blade attacked Yandong. With a soft sound, the moon blade sliced through Yandong's body, and the Typing City Lord fell down with wide-eyed eyes. When he fell to the ground, his body was split in two. Yang Kai stretched out his hand to make a move, took off the space ring in his hand, and then disappeared in a ghostly manner. When he reappeared, he had already returned to Shi Tianhei's side. When the sound of fighting came, Yang Kai glanced at it, and found that since Ji Yao and Bai Yu were fighting to the death, it was just that Bai Yu was in a mess at the moment, with disheveled hair, and many wounds on his body, dripping with blood. Unfortunately, in Ji Yao's icy cold under the influence of the artistic conception, the blood was frozen as soon as it flowed out. And Bai Yu's head was covered with frost, and her movements were clumsy. It can be seen that the laws and artistic conception he has comprehended cannot be compared with Ji Yao at all, and it is only a matter of time before he loses and dies. Senior, these are the space rings of those three people. Seeing Yang Kai coming back, Shi Tianhei respectfully handed over the three space rings. The Xuanlei Pavilion elder who was seriously injured before was also dead, and Yang Kai took his life before chasing Yandong. At this moment and here, the smell of blood is pungent, and the ground is full of colorful intestines and bright red blood, just like hell on earth. Yeah, Yang Kai nodded, put away the three space rings bluntly, and put them together with the space ring he got from Yandong earlier. After a little inspection, he found that these guys are still rich, especially in Yandong's ring. There are a lot of source crystals, and there are also many genius treasures. Senior, Shi Tianhei yelled in a low voice. Ever since Yang Kai showed that terrifying strength, the way she looked at Yang Kai now was a little strange. There was no casualness before, and there was a kind of awe of the mountains. You, who the hell are you? Me, my name is Yang Kai. Yang Kai grinned at her. To be continued. Chapter 2628 Recruitment Order. Phone reading. Yang Kai, Shi Tianhei was stunned for a moment, then said in shock, Senior, you are the one. Yang Kai smiled and said, That's right, I'm the person Wen Qingzong has been looking for. Please search Pin and Shu Wang to see the most complete. The fastest updated novel element of Upright Arrow. Hearing Yang Kai's own confession, Shi Tianhei couldn't stop smiling bitterly. When she heard those rumors before, she had even slandered Yang Kai for being unkind. After all, the reason why Bingxin Valley suffered such catastrophe was fundamentally caused by Yang Kai, because he killed Feng Shi in the Broken Star Sea, which caused Feng Zan to be furious. The current chaotic situation. Shi Tianhei never thought that one day, the culprit who caused the turmoil in the Northern Territory would appear in front of his eyes alive. After thinking about it, Shi Tianhei was shocked again. Because she suddenly remembered that Feng Shi was killed in the Sea of Broken Stars a few years ago. In other words, Yang Kai was also in the Sea of Broken Stars a few years ago, and the Sea of Broken Stars, only warriors below the Emperor Senior stage can enter it. Doesn't this mean that Yang Kai only had the Tao Origin Realm a few years ago? Right now, he is at the first level of Emperor Senior. But at the same level of Emperor Senior, these elders of Xuanlei Pavilion, and even the Lord of Typing City, were not his opponents at all. The cultivation that Yang Kai showed before is his true cultivation, and he didn't hide it at all. If this kind of thing hadn't happened right in front of his eyes, Shi Tianhei wouldn't be able to believe it anyway. When did Emperor Senior Realm be so easy to kill? She had fantasized before that if she could find that guy named Yang Kai one day, she would capture him and hand him over to the Wenqing sect to resolve the crisis of the sect, but now, how dare she have such thoughts? Bai Yu is finished. At this moment, Yang Kai suddenly said something. Shi Tianhe quickly looked up. I saw the dazzling light blooming over there, a heart-piercing chill swept across the world, and with the flickering of a sword light, the battle over there was finally settled. When the light dissipated, Ji Yao didn't move, and flicked the long sword in her hand lightly. His face was calm. On the contrary, in front of her, there was an ice lump at some time, and in that ice lump, there was a person frozen, Bai Yu, the master of Xuanlei Pavilion. Being frozen in that lump of ice, Bai Yu's face was terrified, as if she still couldn't believe that she lost just like that, lost completely, and was powerless to fight back. Brush. The ice lump fell downwards and waited until it hit the ground. It shattered suddenly. And Bai Yu, who was frozen in it, also fell apart, and there was no complete place. As Ji Yao said before, she did tear the opponent into pieces. With a swipe, Ji Yao came to Yang Kai's side, looked left and right, and didn't ask where the other 4 enemies were. The blood and minced meat all over the ground are the best explanation, and she nodded at Yang Kai. Master, let's hurry back to the valley. I didn't know the situation of Bingxin Valley before, but now I heard the news that Bingxin Valley was besieged from Shi Tianhe. Ji Yao is eager to return home, and she can't wait to return to Guli immediately to share the joys and sorrows with many sisters. Yeah, Yang Kai nodded, and winked at Shi Tianhe while speaking. Shi Tianhe was also a smart person, so he quickly turned around and flew out, taking back the space ring behind Bai Yu's death. Ji Yao also threw out her small building boat at this time. The 3 of them got on the deck one by one, and Ji Yao made a gesture with both hands, and the boat flew like lightning in an instant. Senior Yang, this is for you. Shi Tianhe handed over the space ring that was frozen in the ice and was still worn on a severed finger. Yang Kai took it. As soon as Di Yuan urged, he melted the ice, threw away the severed finger, and threw the ring to Shi Tianhe again. Senior Yang, you are. Shi Tianhe looked at Yang Kai blankly. This is the trophy of your 3rd uncle. Since your 3rd uncle doesn't like it, you can take it. You will return to Bingxin Valley in the future and practice hard. Don't let your master down again. Yang Kai smiled. Shi Tianhe said gratefully, thank you Senior Yang, thank you 3rd martial uncle. Senior Yang, Ji Yao glared at her, I told you, this is your patriarch. Yes, thank you patriarch. Shi Tianhe's face changed, and he changed his words quickly, not knowing how to explain it to Ji Yao. Quietly looked at Yang Kai, and found that Yang Kai was also full of helplessness. 2 days later, 3,000 miles away from Bingxin Valley, somewhere above a snow mountain. The heavy snow fell and the sky was freezing cold. Yang Kai and others stood on the top of the mountain and looked into the distance. Ji Yao couldn't help trembling with excitement all over her body. Looking at the familiar scenery and smelling the familiar air, the heavy snow like goose feathers fell on her body and melted. She felt as if she had regained a new life. I couldn't contain my joy. Perhaps because of the timidity of being close to the hometown, Ji Yao still has some timidity and worry in her eyes. There are a lot of people. Yang Kai exhaled lightly, and his face was full of white mist. Standing here and looking out, one can clearly see warriors constantly patrolling outside Bingxin Valley, and these warriors are obviously not disciples of Bingxin Valley, and there are even groups of 10 or 20 people gathered around one place to defend Bingxin Valley, the main entrance and exit. The entire Bingxin Valley seems to have been surrounded by iron barrels. An emotional sect, how can there be so many people? Yang Kai frowned slightly. According to the news from Shi Tianhe, Yang Kai learned that not only Bingxin Valley was besieged, but even the nearby Binglan City had been seized. Ice Wheel City is an important hub of Ice Heart Valley's external communication. After being seized, it is tantamount to being cut off from the communication channel with the outside world. Ask the people of the Love Sect to surround Bingxin Valley and occupy Binglan City, how could there be so many people? Shi Tianhe said, there are many sect families in the Northern Territory that are attached to the Wenqing sect. This time, the Wenqing sect made such a big commotion, and those affiliated forces must have come to help. That's not so many people. Yang Kai shook his head slowly, and suddenly said, Bingxin Valley and Wenqing sect are both big forces. Wenqing sect has a family sect attached to it, isn't there any in Bingxin Valley? As far as I know, there are quite a few female disciples in Bingxin Valley who are married. With this relationship, now that Bingxin Valley is in danger, don't those forces come to help? Shi Tianhe smiled wryly when he heard the words, and didn't know how to answer. But Ji Yao said, Master, didn't you set the rules when you created Bingxin Valley? You couldn't help marrying in the valley. But the disciples who married out have nothing to do with Bingxin Valley. Your concern at that time was that you didn't want the world to misunderstand Bingxin Valley. Marriage is used as a reason to expand power, so as not to attract wind. Yang Kai said in amazement, Is there such a rule? Ji Yao said angrily, The rules you set yourself. Yang Kai laughed dryly and said, I'm confused as a teacher. Who is sneaking around here? Just as the three of them were watching and observing, a loud shout suddenly came. Immediately afterwards, one after another piercing sound hit, and in an instant, the figures of a group of 5 people appeared in front of Yang Kai and the others. Among the 5 people in this group, headed by a half-old man, the other 4 seemed to be under the age of 40, but there were no women, all of them were men. Yang Kai's spiritual sense swept away, and he saw that these 5 people were only Daoyuan boundary, the leading old man was only Daoyuan boundary, and the remaining 4 were only Daoyuan boundary. Who are you guys? Yang Kai asked with squinting eyes, and when he spoke, he exerted a little coercion. Enveloped towards those 5 people. The complexions of the 5 people changed drastically immediately, and the half-grown old man in the lead was even more terrified. He cupped his fists and said, Minghui below, I saw this lord, and I offended you a little bit just now. Please forgive me, lord. Realizing that Yang Kai is an emperor senior realm, how dare this Fang Minghui be presumptuous? Hastily lowered his posture, fearing that Yang Kai would be unhappy. What are you doing here? Yang Kai asked with a cold face. Fang Minghui hurriedly said, The next few people are ordered to patrol. He was talking, he showed a flattering smile at Yang Kai. Inspection, are you a disciple of Wenqing sect? Yang Kai frowned. Fang Minghui shook his head and said, No, we are from the Fang family in Shuangyu City. The people behind me are all disciples of the Fang family. The Fang family in Shuangyu City. Yang Kai suddenly said, Affiliated forces. My lord is just joking. Fang Minghui laughed endlessly, Our Fang family is just a low-level family, how can we climb a tree like Wenqingzong, even the entire Shuangyu City, Wenqingzong might not look down upon it. Yang Kai wondered, It's not a subordinate force of the Qing dynasty, so what are you doing here? And who is ordering you to patrol here? Here is very close to Bingxin Valley. Now Wenqingzong and Bingxingyu are in a state of chaos, and war may start at any time. I am afraid that people who have nothing to do with it will not stay here, right? Fang Minghui said in astonishment, Of course I was ordered by Wenqingzong. Yang Kai snorted and said, You are talking in a mess, I am confused, I can't speak clearly. I immediately pulled out your tongue. Fang Minghui turned pale with shock, and hurriedly said, Senior, calm down, I really am here to patrol here under the order of Wenqingzong, and my Fang family really has nothing to do with Wenqingzong, I am not lying. The faces of the 4 people who followed him turned pale for a while, thinking to themselves that the Emperor's senior realm is really not easy to provoke, and it is too violent to pull out their tongues if they are in a bad mood. It's time to pull out people's tongues and play. It doesn't matter, how can you obey orders, you are easy to fool when you are my seat. Yang Kai looked at Fang Minghui indifferently. Fang Minghui wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, and said, My lord said that, there are not a few people like our Fang family in the vicinity of Bingxin Valley. As he was talking, he suddenly seemed to understand something, and looked at Yang Kai timidly and said, Have you never heard of Wenqingzong's recruitment order? What recruitment order? Yang Kai asked with a frown. Fang Minghui exhaled, and said, Your Excellency, you really haven't heard of it. Speak carefully, you're right, I won't pull out your tongue. Yes, yes, Fang Minghui nodded repeatedly, and immediately explained, A few years ago, the Wenqing sect and Bingxin Valley fought. Both factions are top sects in the Northern Territory, and their strengths are almost the same, so they both lost each other. Later, in order to avoid their own losses, Wenqingzong issued a recruiting order, telling the warriors in the entire Northern Territory that as long as they can be temporarily included under Wenqingzong's command, obey the order, and help them deal with Bingxin Valley, not only can they get some source crystals, the rewards of the secret treasure technique can even depend on the size of the credit, and in the future it will become a subsidiary force of the Wenqing sect, and what's more, after the Bingxin Valley is destroyed, it can carve up those female disciples of the Bingxin Valley. To be continued. Chapter 2629 Master and Sister Meet. Carve up the disciples of Bingxin Valley. Yang Kai's eyes widened with surprise. That Fang Mingui smiled meanly, and said, "The women of Bingxin Valley are all pure and clean, as cold as ice, and they are all so talented. If anyone can get one or two in this life, they will have no regrets." In the Northern Territory, Bingxin Valley has a great reputation, and the female disciples of Bingxin Valley are like goddesses to those forces who are not on the stage. Throughout the ages, countless men from the Northern Territory are proud to be able to marry a disciple of Bingxin Valley. But not many people can really do it. Now that Wen Qingzong's solicitation order comes out, even if it makes countless men in the Northern Territory crazy about it, those rewards will be nothing. Disciple, being a slave or a handmaiden is also a matter of face. Even if the Ming media is marrying back to be the main wife, it is not shameful, it will only make others envious and jealous. Are you all here for the disciples of Ice Heart Valley? Yang Kai looked at Fang Mingui curiously. This guy is already old, but he doesn't want to have such thoughts. Fang Mingui smiled wryly and said, "I don't dare to expect too much, I just hope that I can casually get some rewards from Wenqing sect, which is enough for my Fang family to enjoy for many years. If I can belong to Wenqing sect, that would be the best." Yang Kai laughed and said, "Now ask how many people have been recruited by Qingzong." "There are hundreds of thousands, most of them are from family forces like our Fang family, and there are also some second and third class sects who come to serve. Aren't you afraid that Bingxingu will turn around in the future and ask you to settle accounts?" Fang Mingui shook his head and said, "Bingxin Valley has no chance." "How do you say that?" Yang Kai raised his eyebrows. Fang Mingui said, "I don't know the specific villain, I only know that there are now 2 Emperor Venerable third-layer powerhouses on Wenqing sect. Although Bingxin Valley Patriarch Bingyan also has this cultivation level, there is only one person. Can they fight against Wenqing sect? In these years of fighting, Bingxin Valley has suffered heavy casualties. If not, they would not have retreated into Bingxin Valley, relying on the protection of the sect to survive." And what?" Yang Kai asked. Fang Mingui smiled slightly and said, "Bingxin Valley can't hold on for long. The shortest is half a month, and the longest is 1 month. Bingxin Valley will definitely lose." Yang Kai snorted. "You are a Daoyuan 2-layer, how can you have such confidence?" Fang Mingui looked left and right, with a cautious look on his face, and then said in a low voice, "Sect Master Fengshuan invited Master Nanman to come over and is studying how to break the formation. I'm afraid it won't be long before we have a clue. Once the formation is broken, we will attack with all our strength. How can Bingxin Valley still have the strength to resist?" The faces of Ji Yao and Shi Tianhe standing behind Yang Kai changed again and again, and at this moment, their pretty faces turned pale. Fang Mingui babbled for a while, and then said, "My lord, do you want to join in? Now Wen Qingzong is recruiting talents, with the strength of your lord, I think Wen Qingzong is very welcome." Quote. Yang Kai raised his eyebrows and said, "I can do it too." Fang Mingui nodded and said, "Of course, as long as you go to Binglan City to register and explain your background, you can contribute to Wen Qingzong and the benefits will naturally be indispensable. By the way, I haven't asked where your lord is from yet. If it has anything to do with Bingxin Valley, I would not ask for it from the Qingzong." Now that Yang Kai hadn't opened his mouth to speak, Ji Yao had already taken a step forward, and said coldly, "I, Ji Yao, Ice Heart Valley." As soon as the words came out, Fang Mingui and the others changed their expressions drastically, and they all backed away. The members of the Fang family never imagined that after talking with them for so long, the other party turned out to be from Bingxin Valley. Didn't it mean that the people in Bingxin Valley are hiding in the sect and dare not come out, and even the guardian array has been opened? How did these few people come out? Run. Fang Mingui was also a decisive person, knowing that what he said just now must have made the other party unhappy, so he yelled and wanted to escape from this place. The 4 Fang family warriors who were following behind him also reacted extremely quickly, urging their source power one after another. But before they left the place, a heart-wrenching artistic conception suddenly permeated. Ka-cha-cha. There was a soft sound, and the ground turned into frozen soil, and even the space seemed to be frozen, and the 5 people froze in place, unable to move. "Leave him alive," Yang Kai hurriedly shouted. Ji Yao frowned, but still withdrew some strength, and only frozen the other 4 Fang family warriors into ice sculptures, leaving Fang Mingui alone, standing there stiffly. His lips were black and blue from the freezing, his teeth were trembling, and he said with a mournful face, "My lord, please forgive me, since our Fang family joined Wenqing sect, we have never done anything to offend Bingxingu, we are only patrolling around the perimeter and we have never hurt any of Bingxingu's disciples." Yang Kai patted him on the shoulder, knocked him unconscious, stretched out his hand to hold him, and then flicked his sleeve, shaking the remaining 4 Fang family disciples who had been frozen into ice sculptures into powder. "Master, why spare his life?" Ji Yao looked at Fang Mingui, who had passed out, with cold eyes, a little puzzled. "What he said to us just now needs to be told to another person. Perhaps, we can find out some other information from him." Yang Kai explained lightly, and then greeted, "Weigu." "Yes." Ji Yao and Shi Tianhe agreed one after another. Under the surge of space law, Yang Kai wrapped the 2 women, and disappeared in place. By the time they reappeared, a group of 3 people had already arrived outside Bingxin Valley's protecting Sector A. This protecting Sector A was extremely strong and huge, presenting a translucent mask that enveloped the entire Bingxin Valley. From a distance, it looks like there is a big bull on the ground. Everything inside the light curtain is hazy and cannot be seen clearly. Such a large formation of the Guardian sect is definitely not easy to break through. Although the Wenqing sect is strong, it cannot be attacked by force, so we can only invite the formation master to break the formation. However, to support such a large formation, the source crystals consumed must be astronomical. Under normal circumstances, only when the sect is in danger of extinction, the sect protecting formation will be fully opened. He had been watching the snow mountain for a long time before, and Yang Kai had a good idea of the rules of patrolling around here. Now he brought Ji Yao and Shi Tianhe over, and didn't alarm anyone. "Yaoer, let's go." Yang Kai's spiritual sense swept out. While guarding his surroundings, he instructed Ji Yao. "Yes." Ji Yao nodded, quickly took out a token from her space ring, poured it into Emperor Yuan, and waved it lightly at the light curtain in front of her. A ray of mysterious light shot out, and a hole was split in the light curtain immediately. Before the hole was closed, Yang Kai and the others had already filed in. No one else could open this guardian formation, but Ji Yao, as the 3rd disciple of Bingyan, naturally had a way to open it. The 3 of them hadn't stood firm yet, and there was a soft drink, and then a sword light suddenly appeared over there, and a delicate body was wrapped in the sword light, like a meteor falling 9 days away, dazzling like a rainbow. The emperor's will pervaded instantly, and the icy breath dropped suddenly, making Shi Tianhe shiver. 7th junior sister. Is it 7th junior sister? When the ultimate move came, Ji Yao didn't even have the intention to resist, but stared at the figure wrapped in the sword light, and shouted tremblingly. "Huh!" There was an exclamation in the sword light, and then the light scattered, revealing a petite figure. After the figure landed on the ground, holding a long sword, he stared forward. 7th junior sister. Ji Yao called out, trembling slightly. 3rd senior sister. Over there, the petite figure was also instantly agitated, and she could hardly believe her eyes. After shouting, she rubbed her eyes vigorously, and found that the person standing in front of her was really missing for many years. The 3rd senior sister Ji Yao, who heard the news. Looking at each other, the 2 teachers and sisters were extremely excited, their bodies swayed and ran towards each other, and soon hugged each other. 3rd senior sister, you are finally back, where have you been all these years? The petite figure threw herself into Ji Yao's arms and asked with sobs. Ji Yao's eyes were also red, but she still resisted the ups and downs of her emotions, gently stroked the hair of the petite figure, and said softly, "I'm sorry for making you worry." At this time, some of the female disciples of Bingxin Valley who heard the movement also ran over. There were hundreds of people around, all of them were holding sharp swords, and they were full of murderous looks. Surprisingly, a woman was hugging each other, looking very intimate, and they were all dumbfounded. After hearing the conversation between the 2, a group of Bingxin Valley female disciples suddenly realized. This is the 3rd uncle. What, she is the Uncle Ji Yao who has been missing for many years? Yes, it's her. I've seen her portrait in the forbidden area, so I won't admit it wrong. Uncle Ji Yao is back. The sect is in danger, and the uncle is back. It's a blessing for the sect. The patriarch will definitely be very happy. There is finally a happy event for Serial. A group of women chirped, like a group of larks, noisy, but they all conveyed the atmosphere of joy. Junior sister. Another call came out. Among the crowd, a tall woman with delicate features stared blankly at Shi Tianhe standing behind Yang Kai, and shouted in surprise, "Junior sister Tianhe." Shi Tianhe heard the sound and looked over there, Her delicate body trembled slightly, suppressing the excitement in her heart, and tremblingly said, "Senior sister Yu." Her expression was a little reserved and timid, as if she was afraid to face that senior sister Yu, like a child who had done something wrong. Yang Kai heard the words and turned his head to look over there, remembering what Yan Dong said earlier. He immediately understood that this tall woman was the Yu Dan he had mentioned. Yu Dan stepped out, came to Shi Tianhe, looked her up and down, smiled and said, "I haven't seen you for many years, junior sister has become thinner, have you been wronged after being away these years?" Shi Tianhe's eyes turned red, he pursed his lips and shook his head, tears streaming out all at once. "Okay, don't cry, master has been thinking of you all these years, it's good that you come back," Yu Dan said, gently wiping Shi Tianhe's tears. But the tears were like pearls with broken strings, and they couldn't be wiped off after wiping string after string. To be continued. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update Group at Biaoming Dong Kong Shui. Chapter 2630 Completely Awake. The scene of two pairs of teachers and sisters of different generations reunited after a long absence was really touching. A group of female disciples in Bingxin Valley are mostly sentimental people, looking at this side, looking at that side, soon everyone's eyes became moist, as if they were infected, and all the sharp swords in their hands were taken back. "Stand there quietly." Cough. Yang Kai clenched his fist and coughed lightly, attracting everyone's attention in an instant. "By the way, 7th junior sister, I came back with master." Ji Yao was startled, and said to the petite figure with a happy face. "Master." The petite figure looked puzzled, and asked suspiciously, "Master is not here." "Miss Chang-sun, we meet again." Yang Kai smiled slightly and interrupted her. This petite woman is exactly what Yang Kai had seen a few years ago, the eldest Sun Ying of the 7th disciple of Frozen Cloud. Chang Sunying turned her head to look at Yang Kai, and said in surprise, "Senior brother Yang, how could it be you?" She was really surprised. She reunited with Ji Yao after a long absence. She was immersed in the joyful atmosphere and didn't pay much attention, only now did she realize that her third senior sister came here with Yang Kai. She called Yang Kai senior brother, not because Yang Kai's cultivation was higher than hers, she had Emperor senior first layer cultivation, and when she met Yang Kai a few years ago, Yang Kai was only Dao origin third layer. She called it that just out of respect. After all, the reason why Bing Yun was able to get rid of the lonely void and return to Bingxin Valley was due to Yang Kai. After the few disciples under Bing Yun's seat learned about this, they were all grateful to Yang Kai, and it was polite to call them seniors. "Miss Chang-sun doesn't welcome me." Yang Kai smiled slightly. Chang Sun-ying blushed, and said, "Where is it? Senior brother Yang has shown great kindness to me, Bingxingu, how could he not welcome me? Master has already told me that senior brother Yang treats Bingxingu like his own family. Senior Bing Yun has a heart." Yang Kai nodded lightly. Ji Yao frowned over there, looking at Yang Kai with a puzzled expression. Her pair of beautiful eyes gradually became a little confused. In her cognition, Yang Kai is the master and Bing Yun, but now listening to Yang Kai's words, she is confused, and she can't figure out why. Yang Kai noticed her abnormality, and said with a solemn expression, "Senior Bing Yun, is he free now? I need to see her." Chang Sun-ying hurriedly said, "Master has not retreated recently, she will be very happy to know that you are coming, and the third senior sister is also back. Follow me." As he spoke, he took Ji Yao's hand and led the way. Yang Kai held Fang Mingui in one hand, walked a few steps and then turned around to say hello, "Tianhe, come here too, and meet your master." Shi Tianhe's delicate body trembled, his face full of uneasiness. "Junior sister, don't be afraid, I'll go with you." Yu Dan patted the back of Shi Tianhe's hand, and said softly. Shi Tianhe's emotions calmed down a little, and he and Yu Dan followed Yang Kai's pace. On the way, Shi Tianhe asked anxiously, "Senior sister, master, is she still angry with me all these years?" Yu Dan nodded seriously and said, "Naturally." Shi Tianhe's face turned pale immediately, his legs seemed to be filled with lead, and he couldn't move. But Yu Dan smiled secretly, and said, "You didn't hesitate to disobey master and want to be with that man surnamed Dong. Of course master will be angry. After all, you were taught by her alone. You are so disobedient, you are not allowed. Is she angry?" Shi Tianhe said bitterly, "It's the junior sister who disappointed the master." Yu Dan said, "But don't worry, Shizen is angry, but he has been thinking about you all these years." "Really?" Shi Tianhe asked happily. Yu Dan said quietly, For the past 100 years, every 2 years, I have been ordered to go to Taiping City to inquire about your situation and see if you have suffered any grievances. Shi Tianhe shook his body and said excitedly, Master told you to go. Yu Dan smiled and said, Master doesn't say anything, how can I have the courage to go there? Master said, if you suffer the slightest grievance in that Dong's house, she will go and destroy the whole family. Don't you think that Master has not done it in the past 100 years? She took care of you, but she still misses you in her heart. Hearing this, Shi Tianhe's eyes were red again, and she almost cried again. It took Yu Dan to comfort her for a while before she calmed down. In the main hall of Bingxin Valley, Yang Kai was sitting upright, Ji Yao and Shi Tianhe were standing behind him. As for Fang Mingui, who was still unconscious, he was thrown by Yang Kai's feet and ignored. Yu Dan was by Shi Tianhe's side, whispering the sound as exchanged. After Cheng Sun Ying served the tea, she said, Senior brother Yang, wait a moment, Master, she has got the news and will be here soon. It's already here. Yang Kai's expression changed, and he looked out of the hall. There was a flash of light outside the hall, and Bing Yun's figure had appeared, and following her was a group of Emperor Senior Realm Masters from Bingxin Valley. The number was not many, less than 10. The eldest disciple in Ruian, the second disciple Sun Yunshou and others were all in line. Yang Kai hurriedly got up to meet him, cupped his fists and saluted. Yang Kai has seen Senior Bing Yun. Bing Yun smiled and said, Are you here? Although the two have not been in contact for a long time, but because they have a common fate from the constant Luo starfield, they feel that they are much closer than others. Bing Yun is very happy to see Yang Kai at this critical moment. I've met Senior Brother Yang. Behind Bing Yun, a group of disciples also hurriedly saluted. Yang Kai nodded, turned his eyes around everyone, saw Lu Shanyan, Fangxin, and Ziyu. Today's Ziyu is Emperor Senior Stage. She entered the Broken Star Sea just like Yang Kai, got a chance in the Broken Star Sea, and was promoted to the throne. Looking at each other, Ziyu slightly nodded at Yang Kai, her eyes full of gratitude. Back then in the Sea of Broken Stars, she was about to break through, but attracted the covetousness of the enemy, and several Ice Heart Valley disciples couldn't protect her at all. Later, when she broke through to the Emperor Senior Realm, she learned from those Ice Heart Valley disciples that it was Yang Kai who led her. Leaving the powerful enemy away gave her room to break through safely. This kind of favor alone is enough to make Ziyu feel grateful, not to mention that Yang Kai has an inextricable relationship with Bingxin Valley, and is even more closely related to Patriarch Bingyan. And Lu Shanyan was also very excited. She hadn't seen Yang Kai for several years. Seeing her now, she naturally had a lot to say, but now is not the time. I heard that Ji Yao is back. Bing Yun asked. While sweeping to the back, he saw Ji Yao standing there stupidly. Third junior sister, third senior sister, and Ruian and the others also shouted excitedly. But Ji Yao stood there in a daze, her beautiful eyes were full of bewilderment. She stared at Bing Yun, the confusion in her eyes became more and more clear, as if a group of dark clouds blocked her sight. Third junior sister, why are you in a daze? Why don't you come and see Master? And Ruian didn't understand why, thinking that Ji Yao was too emotional, and quickly reminded her. Bing Yun saw something wrong, turned to Yang Kai and said, What's wrong with Yaoer? Yang Kai hurriedly sent a voice transmission to inform, and simply told Ji Yao's current situation, and he didn't even hide his impersonation. After Bing Yun heard this, she felt very distressed. Ji Yao had suffered so many years in the wild ancient land, and even her sanity became unclear. If she hadn't met Yang Kai by chance, she might still be in the ancient land at this moment live. She sighed softly, with a kind expression on her face. She called out, Yaoer, the teacher is here, why don't you come over? Master. Ji Yao's delicate body trembled when she heard the shout, her beautiful eyes suddenly trembled violently, and the chaotic expression shattered in a very short time, turning into a piece of clarity. PFF'd. Ji Yaoten opened her mouth, and spurted out a mouthful of black blood. Her breath suddenly became weak, but her eyes became extremely bright. When Ruian and the others saw it, they were all taken aback, not knowing what happened to Ji Yao at all. Master. Ji Yao swayed, and suddenly came to Bing Yun, knelt down on the ground, and said in a trembling voice, The unworthy disciple has made Master worry. Bing Yun reached out and patted her on the head lightly, saying, It's good to be back, it's good to be back, get up. Ji Yao shook her head and cried bitterly, holding Bing Yun's thigh tightly with both hands, as if she never wanted to let go. And Ruian and the others also quietly wiped the corners of their eyes. Bing Yun said helplessly, master and apprentice, it's a happy event to reunite after a long absence, don't cry, get up and talk. She stretched out her hand, pulled Ji Yao up, wiped away her tears herself, and handed it to Ruiyan to take care of her, then turned to look at Yang Kai and said, I made you laugh, Yaoer has a stubborn temper since she was a child. Yang Kai shook his head and said, Yaoer, cough cough, junior sister Ji Yao is a temperamental person. He was used to calling Yaoer during this period of time, and he almost called it wrong again. After hearing this, Ji Yao raised her eyes to look at Yang Kai, her eyes couldn't help being a bit complicated. After seeing the real Bing Yun, she undoubtedly came to her senses completely. Although she didn't know if she would be confused again in the future, at least she was safe and sound now. It was because she was sober that she realized how bad her previous state was. Mistaking a man for her master, if this kind of thing hadn't happened to her, Ji Yao would never have believed it. Yang Kai was a little guilty, he didn't dare to look at her, his eyes were erratic. Sit down and talk, don't stand still. Bing Yun was in a good mood, her long-lost 3 disciples returned to the sect, and Yang Kai also came, which can be described as a great joy, and it was rare to see some smiles on the ground. All the disciples were secretly happy when they saw it. During this period of time, Bing Yun hadn't shown any smiling faces, and today he finally saw the bright moon through the dark clouds, which made the group of disciples feel a lot more relaxed. When Bing Yun spoke, everyone naturally dared not disrespect, and immediately sat down according to their status. Ruiyan received Bing Yun's sound transmission instructions, and didn't dare to let Ji Yao go too far away from him, so he naturally asked her to sit with him and take good care of her. Senior brother Yang, did you come here on purpose after hearing about the situation in our Bingxin Valley? After sitting down, Sun Yunsho looked at Yang Kai curiously and asked, if it wasn't on purpose, the timing would be too coincidental. Yang Kai shook his head and said, it's not on purpose, it's just that I accidentally ran into junior sister Ji Yao in the wild ancient land, and wanted to send her back first, and something happened when I passed through Taiping City, so we learned about it. The current situation of Bingxin Valley. To be continued. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update Group at Biaoming Dong Yu Shui Shui. Chapter 2631 Ruiyan's Wrath. Taiping City. Ruiyan's expression changed. What happened? The word Taiping City may be unfamiliar to others, but to Ruiyan, it is like a thorn in his heart. Back then, Shi Tianhe did not hesitate to disobey her, and the man he wanted to marry was from Taiping City. Hearing her question, Shi Tianhe's delicate body trembled, and she timidly raised her head to look at Ruiyan, but saw that Ruiyan didn't even look at him. His heart was full of bitterness, knowing that his master had always been did not forgive myself. Otherwise, since I had seen myself earlier, why didn't I summon myself to ask questions? Yang Kai smiled slightly. Speaking of which, it has something to do with junior sister N. Ruiyan listened, and looked thoughtfully at the pale Shi Tianhe over there, with a calm expression, showing no emotion. How did the matter in Taiping City have something to do with eldest sister? Senior brother Yang, please tell me carefully. Chang Sunying asked curiously. Yang Kai Dao. Junior sister Ji Yao and I had a rest in Taiping City a few days ago. When we were about to leave the city the next day, we met a person pretending to leave Taiping City, but he was stopped by someone who was clueless. Quote. He told all about what was about to happen at the gate of Taiping City, and kept staring at Ruiyan while talking, as if he was talking to her alone. When he heard that Dong Hai disregarded the centuries-old relationship between husband and wife, not only slandered Shi Tianhe for stealing the Dong family's family treasure, but even expelled him from the Dong family in public, the armrest on Ruiyan's seat was smashed. She crushed it. Although Shi Tianhe is her abandoned disciple, she was brought up by her after all. When will it be the Dong family's turn to bully him like this? What's more, she knows Shi Tianhe's temperament best. How could she do such a thing as stealing? Later, junior sister Ji Yao and I found out that the theft of the clan's treasure was nothing more than a crime of wanting to commit crimes. The root cause was that Tianhe heard that the master's school was in trouble, and wanted to go back to the valley to do his best. But now the situation in the Northern Territory is turbulent, and anyone who has anything to do with Bingxin Valley will have no good end. The Dong family didn't dare to let Tianhe reveal her identity, so they arrested her on a random charge and ordered her to be arrested. Drive her out of the Dong family, so that she can break away from the Dong family, so as not to be implicated. Yang Kai continued. Junior sister Ji Yao and I just met Tianhe, and only then did we know the situation of Bingxin Valley, so we rushed over all the way without stopping. After finishing speaking, he picked up the tea beside him and sipped it lightly. Too much deceit. And Ruian couldn't bear it anymore, and slapped the other armrest into pieces. In the main hall, many Bingxin Valley women also had angry expressions on their faces. Back then, all the men in the Northern Territory were proud of being able to marry the disciples of Bingxin Valley, but now they are being bullied by the Dong family in Taiping City. A disciple who has been married to Dong's family for 100 years, she is the master and mother, but in the end she was expelled from the family in public and was given a bad reputation as a thief. This made a group of women almost explode their lungs. Tianhe, come here, and Ruian raised his eyes, looking at Shi Tianhe who had been standing behind Yang Kai. Hearing this, Shi Tianhe's delicate body trembled suddenly, her steps were difficult, and she couldn't move, but Yu Dan pushed her lightly and gave her an encouraging look, then Shi Tianhe walked up to Ruian with a plop kneel down. He didn't say a word, but he burst into tears. Ruian raised his palm high, with a look of hatred on his face, as if he wanted to smoke it down, but after trying several times, he couldn't be ruthless and finally stomped his foot and withdrew his hand. Taking a deep breath, Ruian said in a deep voice, "Rebel, you know your mistake." Shi Tianhe burst into tears, nodded and said, "The disciple knows his mistake." Ruian said bitterly, "I persuaded you 100 years ago, don't marry into the Dong family because of the life-saving grace that time. There are many ways to repay the favor, there is no need to sacrifice your life's happiness, you just don't listen, but in the end you don't want to marry me. It ended up like this today, why did you humiliate yourself like this?" Shi Tianhe put his head on the ground, unable to crawl, and cried, "Master, please punish me." Ruian said with a cold face, "Don't call me master, I didn't have you as a disciple 100 years ago, and you and I have already severed the relationship between master and apprentice. Today's fruit is the cause of what you did that day, whether it is sour or bitter, you have to bear it yourself, it has nothing to do with me, and it has nothing to do with Bing Xinggu. Master, please punish," Shi Tianhe begged sadly. Ruian said angrily, "How dare you call me master?" Cheng Sunying couldn't stand it any longer, she stood up and said, "Elder sister, don't be angry, although Tianhe didn't listen to you and disobeyed you back then, but now she has suffered a lot, I believe she will never do that again. And, she wanted to go back to Bingxin Valley this time, just because she heard that the teacher's school was in trouble, with this determination and loyalty, couldn't the elder sister forgive her?" The other teachers and sisters also nodded one after another, and began to persuade them in a hurry. Ruian heard it, but didn't say a word. Seeing this, Yu Dan hurried forward, knelt down in front of Ruian with a plop, and said, "Master, please forgive junior sister Tianhe this time." Ziyu also moved her tender body, and also came to Ruian and knelt down, saying, "Master, junior sister Tianhe already knows her mistake, please forgive her." Both of them, like Shi Tianhe, are under Ruian's sect, so they are naturally qualified to intercede. Seeing this, Ruian was furious, pointing at Yu Dan and Ziyu, pointing with his slender fingers, gritted his teeth and said, okay, you're all so stiff, you won't be obedient anymore, still have the face to call me a master." Yu Dan and Ziyu's delicate bodies trembled, and they said repeatedly, "Master, calm down, but this disciple dare not." "Since you dare not, then stand up quickly," Ruian said angrily. Yu Dan and Ziyu looked at each other, and said in unison, "Then master, please forgive junior sister Tianhe. Are you still bargaining with me?" Ruian was so mad. "Okay," Bing Yun suddenly shouted. As soon as she spoke, everyone fell silent. Bing Yun swept the left and right, and then turned his gaze to Shi Tianhe, who had been lying there with his head on the ground, and said, "Your name is Shi Tianhe." Shi Tianhe hurriedly turned around, suppressed his crying, and replied, "Disciple Shi Tianhe, I have met the patriarch." Bing Yun nodded lightly, pondered for a while and said, "You disobeyed your master 100 years ago, made a big mistake, and were expelled from the school. Logically speaking, you are no longer from my Bingxin Valley. Life or death has nothing to do with me, Bingxin Valley." When Shi Tianhe heard the words, his body trembled and he felt despair. Bing Yun changed the topic, and said, "But because you care about the teacher's school this time and risk your life to return to serve, I can give you a chance." Shi Tianhe hurriedly said, "Please make it clear, Patriarch." Bing Yun smiled and said, "This palace is the master, and I will accept you into Bingxin Valley again. But, whether you will be able to worship under your master again depends on your future performance." Shi Tian looked up eagerly, looking at Bingyan with surprise and excitement, but soon, she turned her head and looked at Ruiyan anxiously, and said shyly, Master disagrees, disciple dare not go back to Ice Heart Valley. Bingyan smiled and said, Your master is my disciple, since I have spoken, how dare she disagree? Ruiyan, what do you say? Ruiyan was spotted by Bingyan, and immediately bowed and said, Disciple, I will obey the master's order. After finishing speaking, he looked at Shi Tianhe and said, What are you still doing kneeling, why don't you thank the patriarch? Shi Tianhe was startled, and hurriedly bowed his head and said, Thank you patriarch for your kindness, thank you master for your kindness. After thanking him, he stood up, his face was full of joy, but it was full of tears. Ruiyan said angrily, What happened? As he spoke, he threw out a brocade handkerchief and floated towards Shi Tianhe. Shi Tianhe took it, but didn't wipe his tears. He just held it tightly and wiped away the tears with his sleeve. Ziyu, who stood up again, looked at Yu Dan and her, and couldn't help smiling. From now on, you can practice by Ziyu's side. You don't have to worry about the Dong family's affairs, and I will seek justice for you. Ruiyan said coldly. As soon as these words came out, Shi Tianhe knew that his master still had his own in his heart, otherwise he wouldn't have said that he wanted to seek justice by himself. She shook her head and said, Master, the Dong family is gone. It's gone. Ruiyan's beautiful eyes flashed a cold light, and he snorted coldly, It's cheaper for them, since it's gone, it's good, I will stay in the valley with peace of mind from now on, and if I make a big mistake again, I will never forgive you lightly. Quote. Yes, Shi Tianhe respectfully replied. Congratulations to Senior Bingyan for the reunion of master and apprentice, and congratulations to Sister An for the reunion of master and apprentice. Yang Kai sipped tea for a long time, seeing that the dust had settled, he clasped his fists with a smile and said. Bingyan said with a smile, It's all thanks to you. Speaking of which, several important events in my Bingxin Valley are all related to you. It seems that there is a real relationship between you and me. She herself was able to escape from the secret realm of the void. The biggest reason was because of Yang Kai, and now Ji Yao and Shi Tianhe were able to come back because of Yang Kai. This over and over again is not what fate is. It's just a coincidence. Yang Kai smiled slightly, and then looked solemn again, saying, Senior, I didn't hear much news from the hearsay with junior sister Ji Yao, but now I don't know what the situation in Bingxin Valley is, can I invite Senior tell me the news? As soon as Yang Kai mentioned the matter, everyone's expressions became solemn. Bingyan said, What do you want to know? Yang Kai Dao, Qingzong and Bingxin Valley should have almost the same strength, why can Bingxin Valley be forced to this field? Bingyan sighed. The strengths of the two factions were indeed similar, but more than half a year ago, the deputy lord of Wenqing sect suddenly broke through to the third level of Emperor Zun. He teamed up with Feng Zan, and I was defeated by this palace. On my Bingxin Valley, I guard a corner of the land, and I have never had close contacts with other factions. Wenqing sect has attracted many minions, and I, Bingxin Valley, cannot resist, so I can only retreat to the valley and open the big array of guardians. Open HoloLens bracket to be continued. Close HoloLens bracket. Chapter 2632 Brother becomes uncle. Ask the deputy suzerain of the love sect. Yang Kai was stunned, a figure quickly appeared in his mind, and said in a deep voice, Yao Zhou. Quote. Bingyan nodded and said, Yes, that's him. Ji Yao, who had been silent all this time, asked curiously, Do you know Yao Zhou? Yang Kai nodded and said, When I came to Bingxin Valley last time, I didn't have much dealings with him. The last time he came to Bingxin Valley, it happened to coincide with the marriage between Wenqing sect and Bingxin Valley. Feng Shi, the young patriarch of Wenqing sect, fell in love with Ziyu, and tried every means to get it, but Bingxingu was forced to agree to the marriage under pressure. At that time, it was Yao Zhou who brought Feng Shi to Bingxin Valley to welcome his relatives. At that time, Yao Zhou was at the second level of Emperor Venerable, and Yang Kai was not at the third level of Daoyuan, so there was a huge gap in strength between them. But Yao Zhou was still injured by the Emperor Absolute Pill that Yang Kai sent with Frozen Cloud. In that Emperor Absolute Pill, what was sealed was the secret art of Bingxin Valley, Bingshuili Flower Sword. Later, Yang Kai even snatched Yao Zhou's space ring, and in that space ring, there was a bride price prepared by Wen Qingzong, which really made Yang Kai a windfall at that time. This was just a few years ago, so Yang Kai naturally remembered it fresh, so when he heard Bingyan mentioning the deputy sect master of the Qingqing sect, he remembered it. On the other side, Chang Sunying's lips twitched, and she quietly sent a voice transmission to Ji Yao, telling what happened a few years ago. Ji Yao was also speechless for a while. She suddenly found that Yang Kai was simply a robber. A few years ago, he was only at the 3rd level of Daoyuan, and he robbed a space ring at the 2nd level of Emperor Zun, and some time ago in the wild ancient land, and even extorted a large amount of wealth from the 4 great saints. This man was made for a brigand. How could Yao Zhou suddenly be promoted to the 3rd level of the Emperor? Yang Kai frowned slightly. Although Yao Zhou was at the 2nd level of Emperor Senior Realm a few years ago, it was not so easy to break through and be promoted, especially at the level of Emperor Senior Realm. It was often impossible to break through for thousands of years. It didn't take long for Yao Zhou's cultivation base to improve so quickly. Bing Yun shook his head and said, I don't know about this, maybe he has his own chance. Sighing, he continued, originally, Bingxin Valley, and Wenqing sect were indeed evenly matched, but since Yao Zhou broke through to the 3rd level of Emperor Senior, this balance has been broken. I am no match for Feng Zan and Yao Zhou joining forces. Bing Xingwu will naturally be suppressed, and with the minions drawn by Wen Qingzong, Bing Xingwu will appear to be alone. Yang Kai nodded and said, then what are you going to do, Senior? Have you been hiding in the valley? Bing Yun shook his head and said, for the time being, there is no good way, we can only rely on the guardian array to protect for a while. The protective formation may not be able to support it for too long. Yang Kai said in a deep voice. How do you say that? Bing Yun was startled. Yang Kai Dao, junior sister Ji Yao and I met this person outside before. I heard from this person that I asked Qingzong what kind of Nanman master was invited. He is studying to break the formation. It seems that he is a master of formation. Has the predecessor heard of this? People. Master Nanman, Bing Yun frowned, and Ruiyan exclaimed in surprise, the army of the South Gate. Sun Yunshou and Chang Sunying also turned pretty pale, as if they knew who this Nanman master was. Bing Yun cast her questioning gaze on Ruiyan, and Ruiyan hurriedly said, Master, this South Gate army is indeed a formation master, famous in the Northern Territory, and has great attainments in formation. Bing Yun's pretty face also changed, and asked, what is this person's background, and what is the relationship with Wen Qingzong? She had been away from the Northern Territory for too long before, and she had never heard of the name Nanman Daijin. And Ruiyan said, he should have nothing to do with the Wenqing sect. As far as I know, the Nanman Daijin was born in a reckless family. He seems to have obtained a book of formations in his early years. He is self-taught and has no sect background. And because of suffering and bullying in his early years, this guy has always been open to money. He only recognizes money but not people. As long as he has enough wealth, anyone can hire him. Sun Yunshou also nodded and said, it's just that this person always sees the head and sees the tail. I never thought about asking Qingzong to find him. It seems that the price he paid is not small. Bing Yun's face became serious, and he asked, Yang Kai, is this news accurate? Yang Kai Dao. I also listened to what he said. If you are sure, seniors should ask themselves. While speaking, he kicked Fang Mingui who had been lying on the ground, and snorted coldly, get up, if you pretend to be dead again, I'll tell you to die. Fang Mingui, who seemed to be unconscious, was shocked when he heard it, and he quickly got up, clasped his fists with a pale face, and said, I have seen Senior Bingyan and the senior goddesses. The little Fang Mingui is from the Fang family of Shuangyu City. Has nothing to do with Wen Qingzong, seniors have learned from it. I don't know when he woke up. He obviously heard a lot of previous conversations, so he knew that the person sitting above was Bingyan. Did you say this? Did you say this? Yang Kai went up and punched and kicked, while beating and saying, if you dare to talk nonsense, you will immediately smash your body into thousands of pieces. Fang Mingui couldn't hide, so he was hit hard a few times, and said with a mournful face, I will say whatever my lord wants me to say. Yang Kai snorted. Senior Bingyan has something to ask you, answer it honestly, or you will look good to me. Yes yes yes. Fang Mingui nodded repeatedly, although he had expected the fate of the other disciples of the Fang family, but at this moment he couldn't even think of revenge. Who made him weak, and who made them take the initiative to join the battle between the two factions? Bing Yun looked at Fang Mingui and said, then what happened to the South Gate army? Fang Mingui said with a bitter face, Senior, I don't know much about this matter. I just heard from others that Fengshuan sect master, well, that old man invited a master from the South Gate to come over, and he is studying how to break the formation. Half a month, or as long as a month, will be able to break the formation, and when the time comes, hundreds of thousands of disciples from outside will rush in and trample Bingxin Valley to the ground. That's all you know. Bing Yun frowned. Fang Mingui said, Senior Mingjian, the members of our Fang family are not very powerful. Although they joined Wenqing sect in a moment of confusion, they are only responsible for patrolling the periphery. I really don't know the secrets and important things. I have never done anything. I'm sorry. The matter of Bingxin Valley. Yang Kai Dao. He also said that Wen Qingzong issued a recruiting order, promised many benefits, and recruited some warriors to come to work. I already know about this matter. Bing Yun nodded. Otherwise, how could it be possible for an emotion sect to have 100,000 disciples? There are only less than 10,000 disciples in Bingxin Valley. In the past few years, there have been many battles, large and small, and they have lost a lot. Now it is less than 7,000, and 7,000 is against 100,000. This number alone makes people desperate, not to mention that Wen Qingzong has also recruited many powerful people, and there are 2 third-level emperors. Once the protective formation is really broken, then Bingxin Valley will be over, and there may not be many disciples who can escape. The grim situation caused everyone in the hall to look depressed. They thought that there was a large array of guarding sects there, and they could only stare blankly at Wen Qingzong, but now they understand that this is just wishful thinking. Yang Kai thought for a while and said, the root cause of Bingxin Valley's catastrophe is still on me, if I come forward. The reason why Feng Zan did not hesitate to provoke a war between the two factions, even disregarding the situation in the northern territory, was simply to avenge his son Feng Shi, and the person who killed Feng Shi was none other than Yang Kai. Yang Kai felt that if he took the initiative to show up, he should be able to lure away the people who asked about the emotional sect, and the crisis in Bingxin Valley would be resolved by then. No. Before he finished speaking, Bing Yun shook his head. And Ruian, Sun Yunshou, Chong Sunying and others all spoke to dissuade them. Bing Yun said, although you are the cause, it has not been a day or two since he asked Qingzong to attack me in Bingxin Valley. You also know what is the matter of asking Qingzong's supreme gong of Qingqing. There are not a few disciples of this technique, and I, Bing Xinggu, are mostly female disciples with good looks and aptitude, who are the incomparable furnaces for them to practice the technique. So even if you really come forward, Wen Qingzong will not be easy. Let it go. The situation has developed into what it is now. They must destroy me in Bingxin Valley, and it is useless for you to come forward. What she said made sense, and Yang Kai couldn't help but sigh slightly. Bing Yun got up and said, although I, Bingxin Valley, is alone and lonely, it is not so easy for Wenqing sect to destroy my sect. Yang Kai, you don't have to worry. Since you are here, let's stay for a few days. Ziyu, take your Uncle Yang down to rest. Yes. Ziyu responded, looked at Yang Kai and said, Master Uncle Yang, please. Yang Kai nodded, knowing that Bing Yun and the others still had to discuss things, and it was not good for him as an outsider to stay, so he followed Ziyu out. Going out along the road, the scenery in Bingxin Valley is beautiful and pleasant. After walking for a while, Ziyu suddenly pursed her lips and said with a smile, a few years ago, I was a senior brother, but now I am a senior uncle. Yang Kai was stunned, and said, if Miss Ziyu doesn't mind, let's talk about it separately. When the two met a few years ago, Yang Kai really called Ziyu his junior sister, but now Bing Yun's words raised his seniority to a higher level. But this is not surprising. Yang Kai and Ji Yao get along, they are friends of the same generation, and Ziyu is Ji Yao's junior, so naturally he has to call Yang Kai a teacher uncle. Ziyu shook her head and said, that's not okay, let the patriarch know, you must train me. After a pause, he said, by the way, I also want to thank Master Yang for doing me a big favor in the Sea of Broken Stars. If you didn't lure me away for those bad guys, Ziyu might not be promoted so smoothly. It's just a small matter, don't worry about it. Yang Kai smiled slightly. As the two talked, they came to a small courtyard. The courtyard was exquisite and elegant. In the courtyard, there were red plum trees proud of snow and frost, and a gravel road was neatly paved. Master Uncle Yang, don't be polite when you come to Bingxin Valley. If you have any orders, just say hello. Ziyu led Yang Kai into the courtyard and said, well, go get busy, I'll do as I please. Yang Kai nodded. Ziyu apologized and then left. Yang Kai turned his head and looked around, then pushed the door open, sat cross-legged on the futon, and began to meditate. To be continued. This text is provided by the Dawn Update Group at Biaoming Dong Yu Shui Shui. Chapter 2633 Big Gift. Not long after, Lu Shanyan came. She and Yang Kai came to the star realm in the same batch. Although they came from different star regions, the two had supported each other for a while in the Jade Feather sect. Having lived and died together, the feelings are naturally incomparable. Later, Lu Shanyan stayed in Bingxin Valley when she came out of the secret realm of solitude, which was considered a good place for her. She came to find Yang Kai for nothing else, but she hadn't seen him for a few years, and she missed her very much. After some chatting, Yang Kai learned that she is doing well now, and has officially joined the Frozen Cloud sect, becoming a closed disciple under the Frozen Cloud sect. She definitely has this qualification. After all, like Yang Kai, she is a martial artist who came up from the star field below. In the Great Desolation star field, her aptitude is not bad compared to Yin Lesheng. The only difference is her background, and it's just the foundation he has, which is why he is weaker than Yin Lesheng. Yin Lesheng could become the direct disciple of the Patriarch of the Netherworld sect if he joined the Netherworld sect, so naturally Lu Shanyan could too. In recent years, her progress in cultivation has been slow. The main reason is that her life is difficult and her cultivation resources are not enough. Now as Bing Yun's closed disciple, she has abundant cultivation resources and good teachers to teach her. Her potential has begun to show gradually. In just a few years, she has been promoted to the second level of Daoyuan, and is on her way to the third level of Daoyuan. Shock. Although her cultivation level as a senior uncle is inferior to that of many senior nephews, her future is bright and bright. In Bingxin Valley, she gets along with many sisters even more harmoniously, so she has regarded this place as her home. Knowing this, Yang Kai felt relieved. Afterwards, Lu Shanyan asked Yang Kai about the past few years. There is nothing to say, the past few years have been spent most of the time in the Sea of Broken Stars. After leaving the Sea of Broken Stars, he went non-stop to the wild ancient land of the eastern region to look for Xiao Xiao, and encountered the 4 great saints in the ancient land. Yang Kai picked up some things to talk about, and Lu Shanyan listened with great interest. She found that no matter when, Yang Kai's life was so exciting and full of ups and downs. By the way, junior sister, I have something for you. Yang Kai suddenly seemed to remember something, and said. Lu Shanyan asked curiously, what is it? Yang Kai said seriously, relax your body and mind, don't resist. Hearing this, Lu Shanyan nodded lightly, took a deep breath and relaxed, even closing her eyes. At this moment, she is completely defenseless against Yang Kai. In other words, if Yang Kai wants to harm her, he can kill her casually. If she hadn't been 100% assured of Yang Kai, she would not have been able to do this anyway. Yang Kai searched in mysterious small world for a while, and soon, with the palm of his hand, a group of light-emitting dim light appeared on the palm of his hand. As soon as this light group came out, there was a mysterious original aura, and looking around, the light cluster seemed to be dotted with stars, like a starry sky that had shrunk countless times. Suspicious, Lu Shanyan suddenly opened his eyes. After seeing the object in Yang Kai's hand, he was startled again, and said strangely, Senior brother Yang, what is this? Yang Kai said solemnly, the origin of the stars. Lu Shanyan's delicate body shook, and she said in amazement, the origin of the stars. She came from the Great Desolation starfield, so she naturally knows what the origin of a star is. It is the foundation of a star. Only a complete star of cultivation can be born after hundreds of millions of years. And without the source of the stars, that star will become a death star. In the star field, only by refining the star origin of a cultivation star can one become a star master. But is it so easy to become a star master? Even the third level of the Void King may not be able to refine safely. Fall, death and Tao disappear. Looking at the entire Great Desolation starfield back then, there were only a few star masters, and Yin Lesheng was one of them. Lu Shanyan also wanted to refine the original power of a star in the Great Wilderness Starfield to become the Star Master, but unfortunately in their Great Wilderness Starfield, everything is decided by the Netherworld sect, and she has no way to refine it. Change. Later, when I went to the Star Realm, I realized that the origin of the stars is in the Star Realm, and it is so rare that it is rare for ordinary people to see it. She thought that it was impossible for her to have any intersection with the origin of the stars in her life, but she didn't expect that a group appeared in front of her now. Is this obtained from the Sea of Broken Stars? Lu Shanyan asked tremblingly. Yeah, Yang Kai nodded. In the Sea of Broken Stars, he gained a lot of benefits, comprehended that the time flies, got the Phoenix True Fire and the Mountain and River Clock, and witnessed the battle between the two great emperors, Hong Chen and Tian Devourer, and this source of stars is also one of them. No way, this thing is too expensive, I can't take it. Lu Shanyan shook his head quickly, waved his hand and refused. Yang Kai smiled and said, why can't I have it? It's just a copy of the origin of the stars. You and I met at the end of the day, and now the senior brother can be regarded as successful in cultivation. It's rare to give you a gift. Do you still want to refuse? Although Lu Shanyan was moved, he still shook his head firmly and said, Senior brother Yang, if you bid farewell, my junior sister will never refuse, but the origin of the stars. I can't take it. You can refine it yourself. As long as you can refine it, you can refine it yourself. You will definitely get twice the result with half the effort when you cultivate. I heard that warriors who have refined the origin of the stars are very friendly to the laws of heaven and earth. Of course I know this. But I have long been a star master, don't you know? Yang Kai smiled slightly. When he met Lu Shanyan for the first time in the Starlight Channel, he had already revealed the body of the Star Master, and he had already had a complete star source in his body. It is because of this. Lu Shanyan said, I know that brother has it, but you can refine the second one. Although the effect is not as good as the first one, it will definitely help you. Yang Kai shook his head and said, since I want to give it to you, I won't take it back, and I have a lot of stars. A lot. Lu Shanyan was stunned, with a look of disbelief. She knew that Yang Kai went to the Sea of Broken Stars, and she also heard from Ziyu that there seemed to be a Sea of Origin in the Sea of Broken Stars, where many people obtained the complete origin of stars. But the ones who got the most were only 3 or 4 copies. Yang Kai said a lot, no doubt to ease her heart. How did she know that the source of the stars that Yang Kai got was not as simple as 3 or 4 copies, but as many as 30 or 40 copies? The complete star source stored in mysterious Shaoji is still there. As for the use, Yang Kai has his own plans, and it is not a big deal to give Lu Shanyan a copy. Fix it. While Yang Kai was speaking, he directly pushed the cluster of stars in his hand towards Lu Shanyan, urging the star alchemy art, not allowing her to react at all, and then melted into her body. Lu Shanyan snorted, feeling a little uncomfortable on his face. The source of the stars is not so easy to refine. In the Sea of Broken Stars, those warriors who have taken the source of the stars are all robbed first, temporarily sealed in their own bodies, and suppressed with their own cultivation base. Refining, as to whether it can be successfully refined, no one can say for sure. Maybe in the process of refining, it will be backlashed by the power of the source, triggering the laws of heaven and earth to impinge on the body, exploding and dying. I'll pass on a set of spells to you. Listen carefully. With the help of this spell, you will get twice the result with half the effort in refining the origin, and there will be no danger. Yang Kai said solemnly. At this time, Lu Shanyan knew that it was useless to refuse, so he sat upright and listened carefully. Yang Kai passed on the star refining art and told Lu Shanyan not to leak this set of art. Lu Shanyan obeyed. After spending most of the day, Lu Shanyan wrote down the star refining art, and then got up and said, Senior brother Yang, I'm going back to refine the source first. If you need anything here, just say hello. There are disciples guarding you outside the courtyard. I know, you go. Yang Kai smiled slightly. After sending Lu Shanyan away, Yang Kai went back to the house and sat cross-legged, took out the source crystal and began to practice. On the third day, he suddenly opened his eyes and said, Come here. Soon, there was a sound of light footsteps, the door was pushed open, and a female disciple with a pretty face asked respectfully, Uncle Yang, what are your orders? Yang Kai Dao. I'm going to see Senior Bingyan. Master Uncle Yang, please follow me. The disciple responded immediately, leading the way. For today's Bingxin Valley, Yang Kai is not only a guest, but also the closest friend. The above has long ordered that no matter what requirements Yang Kai has, the disciples have to do it. Now that he was going to see Bing Yun, he didn't even need to notify in advance. Soon, under the leadership of the female disciple, Yang Kai came to the front of a palace. Just standing still, Bing Yun's voice came from the hall, Yang Kai is here. Come in and talk. She had obviously checked it out. The female disciple reached out her hand to signal, Yang Kai nodded and walked in. This palace should be Bing Yun's usual retreat and cultivation place. The decoration inside is not luxurious but rather simple. When Yang Kai walked in, he happened to see Bing Yun stepping out from the wing room, and Ji Yao followed her closely. Looking at each other, Yang Kai couldn't help feeling guilty, and smiled at Ji Yao, but Ji Yao's expression was lukewarm, and there was no emotion. I've seen Senior. Yang Kai clasped his fists at Bing Yun again and saluted. Bing Yun smiled slightly and said, sit down and talk. Turning around, he told Ji Yao, Yaoer, serve tea. Yes. Ji Yao got the order and immediately got ready. Yang Kai sat down, his expression was a little uncomfortable. He didn't expect Ji Yao to be here, but after thinking about it, the master and apprentice hadn't seen each other for thousands of years. Now that they meet again after a long absence, it is only natural that Ji Yao has been following Bing Yun's side to fulfill his filial piety. After a short while, 2 cups of steaming tea were ready. Ji Yao first brought a cup to Bing Yun, then came to Yang Kai and put down the cup, saying, Senior brother Yang uses tea. Thank you. Yang Kai nodded in greeting. He really doesn't know what Ji Yao thinks in his heart now, whether he will settle accounts with himself or something. Anyway, he can't see any traces from the expression on Ji Yao's face. He treats Yang Kai like a stranger. Lost the enthusiasm of the past. To be continued. Closing parenthesis. Chapter 2634 Offer suggestions. Phone reading. Damn, there was a power outage again, and I ran out to update. It was a bit late, everyone forgive me. Being busy with foreign enemies these days, I haven't had time to see you. Are you used to living in the valley? Bing Yun asked. Please search #Shuang to see the most complete. The fastest updated novel. Get used to it. Yang Kai couldn't help nodding, and said, Bingxin Valley has outstanding people and beautiful scenery, so there is no reason not to get used to it. That's good. Bing Yun smiled slightly, and suddenly said solemnly, but you won't be able to stay for a few days, and I will personally send you out of here in 2 days. Yang Kai was stunned, and said, Senior, are you planning to fight Wen Qingzong to the death? Bing Yun nodded and said, others have hit in front of me, and I, Bing Xinggu, can only accept the attack. Is there a chance of winning? Yang Kai asked in a deep voice. Bing Yun shook his head and said, no, but it is not that simple for them to destroy my Bingxin Valley. Yang Kai, speaking of this, I still have one thing to ask. Yang Kai said solemnly, Senior, it's okay to say. Bing Yun sighed. Bingxin Valley was created by me. Although it is in danger now, I also hope to leave some foundations. When I send you away, I hope you can bring some disciples and take them away. Northern Territory, no matter where you place them, you must tell them, don't try to hit a stone with a pebble, and you must not return to the Northern Territory before you have fledglings. Even if you want to take revenge, you must be fully sure. Go on in peace. Yang Kai's heart sank, knowing that Bing Yun was arranging funeral arrangements. It seems that she is determined to live and die with Bingxin Valley. When the time comes, those disciples will be led by Ziyu. Yang Kai, you and Ziyu are familiar. I will leave them to you. Bing Yun looked at Yang Kai seriously. Yang Kai frowned and said, Senior, the situation isn't that serious yet. Bing Yun shook his head and said, 7,000 against 100,000, I, Bingxin Valley, have no chance of winning. Ji Yao, who was standing behind Bing Yun, suddenly said, Senior brother Yang, can you please move those existences from the eastern region? If you can please move them, it doesn't take much, just 3 or 2. Yang Kai shook his head when he heard the words, far water can't quench thirst. Who are those existences that Ji Yao refers to? Yang Kai is naturally clear. It's nothing more than those great gods in the wild ancient land. There is no need for Luanfeng and others to come forward, they only need to send a few demon kings to shake the scene. But those guys are all in the ancient land of the eastern region. It's too far from here. If Yang Kai went to the barren ancient land to move back to rescue soldiers, I'm afraid Bingxin Valley would have been breached long ago. What's more, they are monster races and holy spirits, and if they rashly intervene in the affairs of the human sect, they might anger those great emperors. The last time Luanfeng accompanied Yang Kai to the Netherworld sect, she didn't dare to take it lightly, and she killed Zhou Yang because someone took the initiative to provoke her. Although those existences in the wild and ancient land are powerful, once they come out, there are still many taboos in doing things. Ji Yao obviously knew this too, she asked. But holding a glimmer of hope, listening to Yang Kai's answer at this moment. He couldn't help but sighed. Yang Kai pondered and said, Senior, I have also thought about it these 2 days. The reason why Bingxin Valley is at stake is nothing more than because people invited a master who broke the formation. Bing Yun nodded and said, that's right, the South Gate Army is indeed a little bit capable. My Bingxin Valley Guardian sect formation has begun to show some looseness. If you give him another 10.5 months, I'm afraid he can really use the formation. Get rid of. Yang Kai grinned and said, what if he doesn't have these 10.5 months? Bing Yun was startled, and said, how do you say that? Yang Kai Dao. I think so. Didn't the Wenqing sect issue a recruiting order now? Maybe I can pretend to belong to the Wenqing sect, break into the interior, and then find an opportunity to kill the South Gate army. How can this be done? Bing Yun was taken aback, and said, I know you are proficient in the power of space, but now that the powerful enemies outside Bingxin Valley are looking around, there are only Emperor's senior realm. You can't escape. And, don't forget, you must know what you look like when you ask the high-level people of the Love sect. If you rush to defect, you are just throwing yourself at risk. Yang Kai smiled slightly and said, don't worry about the appearance, senior, as long as I don't meet Feng Zan or Yao Zhou face to face, I believe other people will not recognize me. Bing Yundai frowned slightly and said, what kind of body-changing secret technique do you practice? Yang Kai shook his head and said, no. Ji Yao suddenly said, brother, what do you mean, please nephew Tianhe? Yang Kai looked at her with a smile and said, not bad. Ji Yao thought for a while, then nodded and said, brother, if this is the plan, it is feasible. Bing Yun said with a confused face, Tianhe. Is that the disciple who came back with you a few days ago? She is only at the 3rd level of Daoyuan, so what can she do for you even if she makes a move? Ji Yao pursed her lips and smiled, and said, Master, although this nephew Tianhe is not strong enough, he has one ability. What ability? Ji Yao replied, her disguise is extremely clever. Last time in Taiping City, she stood in front of me, and I didn't find any flaws. If senior brother Yang hadn't reminded me, I'm afraid the disciple would have been deceived by her. Bing Yun said in shock, she still has this ability. Even Ji Yao didn't find any flaws, and if it was any other 2nd-level emperor, I'm afraid they wouldn't be able to find any of them. This ability of disguise is a testament to his brilliance. Yang Kai said with a smile, with the help of nephew Tianhe, even if I go to the Wenqing sect, it is unlikely that I will be recognized. As long as I go deep into their interior and find an opportunity to kill the South Gate army, or take him away, I will know one can break through. Bing Yun's eyes lit up when he heard this, but he quickly shook his head and smiled wryly, it still doesn't work. Even if you kill the South Gate army, the result will be the same. Why? Now it was Yang Kai and Ji Yao's turn to be stunned. Bing Yun sighed and said, although my Bingxin Valley's guardian formation is great, it consumes too much energy when it is opened. Even without this South Gate army, we can't support it for 2 months. After 2 months, the formation will be the same, the situation will not change at that time. Yang Kai said in relief, it turned out to be because of this, seniors don't have to worry, I have some source crystals in my hands, enough for Bingxin Valley to use for a long time, and, 2 months, enough for me to go back to the Eastern Territory to find someone to help. Quote, as long as he can delay this time, he can go back to the Eastern region and bring a few demon kings out. At that time, not to mention the 100,000 people who asked about Qingzong, it will be 200,000 to 300,000, which is just a rabble. Who are you looking for when you go back to the Eastern region? Bing Yun wondered. Junior sister Yao knows. Yang Kai smiled slightly. Ji Yao rolled her eyes, and quietly transmitted a word to Bing Yun. Bing Yun's expression was shocked, and he said in amazement, Yang Kai, you can invite them. It's just a small matter, they should help. Yang Kai smiled confidently, and without waiting for Bing Yun to object, he said, then this matter is settled like this, it is not too late, I will go to Tianhe Marshal nephew now. Bing Xingu's mess was caused by him, so he couldn't stay out of it anyway. He has been thinking about how to help Bing Xingu resolve this disaster for the past few days, and now he finally has a charter. Brother Yang, wait, I'm the only one involved. Ji Yao shouted hastily. You. Yang Kai turned his head in astonishment, waved his hand and said, no, I can do it alone, and it will be more troublesome if there is one more person. Ji Yao said, after all, this is my business in Bingxin Valley. How can I let people take risks alone? I must be with you. After finishing speaking, without waiting for Yang Kai to refuse, he suddenly sent a voice transmission. Senior brother Yang, if you dare to say no again, I will tell master that you have molested me. Yang Kai's face darkened, and he was drenched in cold sweat instantly. He quickly swallowed the words on his lips, and changed his words, it's best to have junior sister Yao together, hee hee. Bing Yun saw that his words were insincere, and he didn't know what Ji Yao had said to him, which made his attitude change drastically. But the matter has come to this point. She is not easy to stop. Indeed, as Yang Kai said, if all goes well, Bingxin Valley can avoid the fate of being destroyed. She must make plans for the 7,000 disciples in the sect. Since you insist on this, then call Tianhe over here, let me see how her disguise technique is, and then make a decision. Ji Yao nodded and said, I asked the elder sister to bring her here. As he spoke, he took out the communication compass and poured spiritual thoughts into it. Yang Kai also went back to his chair and sat down, with a displeased expression on his face. The tea in his mouth was bitter, quietly looked at Ji Yao, but found that she was fine, as if she didn't say what she said just now like. After a short while, and Ruiyan's begging voice sounded outside the hall, Bing Yun summoned him, and then brought Shi Tianhe in. After seeing the ceremony, and Ruiyan said, Master, what's the matter with calling me over? Bing Yun said, it's none of your business, I just want Tianhe to do something. When Shi Tianhe heard the words, he hurriedly said, Patriarch, please give me instructions, and my disciples and grandchildren will do their best. Bing Yun smiled and said, don't be nervous, it's just that I've heard that your disguise technique is extremely brilliant, and I want to see if it's really so miraculous. Shi Tianhe said in a respectful voice, small tricks, I'm afraid they won't be able to get into the eyes of the Patriarch. And Ruiyan stared at her and said, since Patriarch wants to meet you, you can use it. Yes, Shi Tianhe replied honestly, then the disciple is making a fool of himself. Yang Kai greeted her and said, Tianhe, change your face for me. Shi Tianhe looked at Bing Yun with an inquiring gaze, and after Bing Yun nodded, he came to stand in front of Yang Kai, and said softly, Uncle Yang, I have offended you. While talking, she waved her hand, took out some messy things and placed them on the table next to Yang Kai. A few people fixed their eyes and found that those things were like rouge mud, nothing special, there are no energy fluctuations. Shi Tianhe first looked at Yang Kai's face carefully, with a pensive expression on his face. After a long time, he suddenly took a deep breath, his hands were flying, and took the materials and pointed them at Yang Kai's face. Erase, and at the same time melt away the material with incomparable sophistication. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come. Mobile, please visit